well. Cool. Well, it's good to see everybody. Thank you for coming up. Today is Saturday, March the 4th, 2023. This is the LA Sound Mixers video chat. Really, thank you all for showing up. Today's a really good topic. Lamps, how are you doing?
I'm very good. How are you doing, Chris?
I'm doing good. I'm doing great. You're staying busier than most of us, aren't you?
I wouldn't say that busy, but I need to move around. It's my, it's my natural state. So I'm always moving around. Next week, I'm going to have a VR shoot, which is going to be kind of interesting. It's going to be a 360 camera, so nobody can be on set.
Those are fun. Yeah. I did one of those years ago with, was it David Blaine, the weird comedian, magician guy?
Mm-hmm.
It was a shoot where he was doing magic in front of a crowd of people. So we had to capture the audience reaction to the magic. We had to capture his dialogue all in that VR setting. And yeah, it was interesting. And
That's a good point. He could make the boon disappear.
Right, exactly. Well, what ended up happening is that we had plant mics and stuff around, but they ended up shooting plates in every direction. So we ended up booming. They shot the plates in parts of the room. They told us where it was easier to mat it out, and that's what we ended up doing. So it was good.
Yeah,
everybody wins.
Busy is gonna be this weekend because we're gonna have CIS awards. We're gonna have our winter meetup, and we're gonna have a 695 event right after that. So it's gonna be pretty busy.
Yeah, it's a busy weekend here in LA. We're like I said, we're really spoiled here to have so many good events. 695 throwing some events, CAS, and then the LA Sound Mixers Winter Mixers coming up, which is really cool. But so yeah, we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Chris Howland. I'm the moderator of LA Sound Mixers, which is a group that was originally organized on Facebook. It's dedicated to mentorship and education, and we just celebrated our 10th year. And so we organized this video chat as a way for various communities around the world to kind of pull together and just get to know each other and hash out some topics, on a monthly basis, roughly. And hopefully, thank you for joining us. Hopefully, the topic we're covering today will help you out in the future. Our assistant moderator is Lampadinha, who is from here in LA. And Adam Young, who normally helps us, it's his birthday weekend, so he's enjoying some quality time with his family, which is very cool. I hope he has a great time. And then we also have Jana Lopez Raven, who is currently hunkered down somewhere at the Intercontinental Hotel downtown, helping with the CAS awards. But she's also kind of taking notes as the scribe for what's going on, and she's kind of helping me behind the scenes as I'm sitting here. I am at audio department here in Burbank, and you'll know this. I'm not a TV show host or anything, so I'm picking my way through this. But I'm at audio department in Burbank. I decided to show up here because this is the first Saturday that they're open post-pandemic. They used to be open on Saturdays. They were the only shop open on Saturdays for a long time. Pandemic caused them to have to close it on Saturdays, but today's the first Saturday they're open. They're and I think it's really cool. I've said this earlier. We're so spoiled in Los Angeles to have 4 dedicated sound shops that are dedicated to production sound, and they're all really great. And but audio department right now, they're starting up on Saturday again, which is really great. So come by, visit. They're keeping full hours, 9 a.m. to 5:30. They take a break from 3 to 3:30. They'll close up for lunch for the staff, but they're open all the rest of the time. So hopefully you guys can make it. I want to send a big thank you to K-Tek, who has been the LA Sound Mixer sponsor since the beginning. Once we really were kind of started defining the page as a mentorship and education page, and we started having events, they were the first ones to jump in and say, hey, we want to help you with that. Because there were a few events we had put on at the local 80 soundstage. Finding venues was tricky and it was expensive. And there was a couple that I paid for myself early on, and I was like, I don't want to do that again. So they stepped in and have been really amazing partners, and they haven't had any. They didn't want to affect or have any influence on content at all. They were like, just talk about everything, talk about all the brands, talk about the practices, everything. There was no restrictions and no conditions to their support. So really want to thank Brenda and Tino for just being phenomenal partners like that. It's very rare in this day and age. So thank you, K-Tek. And then I will also say K-Tek is, we're going to be taking a version of this video chat along with Ken Strain's Boom Operators Masterclass. We're going to be going to Europe in mid-May. We're going to go to Berlin and we'll have Ken Strain's Masterclass, and then we'll have an intermission, and then we'll have a live version of this type of chat in front of a live audience there. And then so we'll spend one weekend in Berlin, and then we'll spend that week driving down to Rome, and we'll have the next weekend in Rome where we'll do the same thing there. So, and that's all on K-Tek's dime. So they're on board with the mission of mentorship and education, and we thank them for that. So if you get a chance to send them a shout out or say thank you, that would be great. But we really love them and thank them for their support. Also, a big shout out to Sabi Tulok, who was the inspiration behind these video chats. We, when the pandemic hit, he came up with the idea of doing these chats every week. And so we did a version of it. It was great. And then I think we did 22 or 23 chats. They're all of them except one are archived on the LA Sound Mixers Facebook page. And then there's a couple on the YouTube page, but you can still find all those chats there. They were streamed live, so they're unedited, but there's a ton of topics that we went over there. If you want a list of the chat links and the topics, you can send me an email at lasoundmixer@mac.com, and I will. I have that all typed up and ready to go, so I can send it to you. It'll tell you what we talked about on what date and the link to that chat. So reach out to me, and you can see what was really Sabi's idea, and Blas Kisic jumped in and helped. Was a big force in making it what it was. Once the pandemic subsided, we all kind of got busy again and we quit doing it. But as I traveled around, I try to go to Europe, once, at least once a year. But a lot of people that I talked to abroad were like, man, we really miss those chats. And so, that's why we started to do it again. I talked to Adam about it, talked to Lamps about it. And so we're going to try and do it again here on a limited basis. And hopefully it will be a way for people to connect with each other. And ultimately, the goal is to help people develop their own communities in their local area. Because once we start talking to each other, once we start sharing how we negotiate our deals, how we price ourselves, how we, there's a lot of good things that can happen that will help you find help when you need it, and also protect the sustainability of the craft for all of us, no matter where we live. So, and I think that's something we all want to do. We love doing this job. We need to get paid, what makes sense for it. And we need to figure out how to get there. So developing your local communities is a huge step. So I hope this video chat series will help people start that conversation in their own communities. So what's next, Lamps? I feel like I'm talking your ear off.
I think we can start kicking in, talking about our social media.
Well, so the topic of this chat, I'm just going to briefly go over it now. We have one more thing to cover first, but the topic of this chat is going to be the do's and don'ts of social media. And it is, what did you call it, Jeff? I think Jeff called it the good, bad, and the ugly.
The good, bad, and the ugly.
Right. And the importance of mentorship. I think those two things will go well together. This is one of those things, like, there's a whole generation of people that didn't have social media when they started in this craft. So their journey getting started was way different than ours. With us, I think I got on social media 3 years after I started in 2005. So I think I joined Facebook 2008, something like that. And I kind of realized quickly that, man, I had the more sound mixers I knew online, that was really a double-edged sword. Like you can do just as much damage as you can help yourself with this tool.
You know what's astonishing, Chris? Facebook started in 2004. Wasn't that long ago?
Oh, right. So that's insane.
You really got in, pretty much in its infancy.
Yeah, and it was, and before that it was like Usenet's groups and stuff, which I'll ask you about that in a bit. But so what we wanted to do is we wanted to unpack this topic, but I wanted to invite I don't. What I think is, I have one opinion about things, but I wanted to invite some panel members that are from different geographic areas that help moderate and influence their local communities. So I'm going to introduce them real quick. If you guys could say hi when I introduce you, I'm going to put it in speaker mode so we can see people's faces. First person I have on my list here is Kyle Petty, who runs the page in Vancouver. How you doing, Kyle?
Hey, everyone.
Thanks for coming. And then we also have, I don't know if I saw him sign in. Richard Thomas was going to sign in from London.
Hello.
Oh,
Hey, he made
there
it.
he is.
There you are. How are you, buddy?
I'm good. I'm at a gig.
Cool. So chime in when you can. If if you get busy, we totally understand. But I really appreciate you making it. But yeah,
I know,
Richard
it's like a music thing.
Oh,
So I'm not
nice.
recording it. I'm just going to.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, Richard Thomas runs the Film and Video UK page, or Film Sound UK. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's an amazing cat. I see him every time I go to London. We have coffee, and it's really cool. Really cool cat. So next up we have from New York City, who is a moderator on our New York Sound Mixers page, Lauren Banjo. How are you doing, Lauren?
I'm good. How are you, Chris? Good to
Awesome.
see you.
Thank you for joining us. I appreciate you being here.
And now I'm really from New York City and not just New Jersey, pretending to be from New York.
That's right. So now you can start working in New York, right?
Yeah.
That was a big move for you, wasn't it, Lauren?
Yeah.
But hey, you brought the cat, right? You didn't forget the cat?
Yeah, she's sleeping right next to me.
That's good, because I'm convinced, like, cats, you can't make them stay with you. They stay with you because they want to stay with you. So oh, look at that.
Oh, there she is.
Hey, that's awesome. Hey, Luna. Very cool. And so let's see. Next up, from Atlanta, Georgia, a big influencer, a guy who's had a lot of influence on me. Hopefully he's here. His name is Aaron Cujo Cooley. And if he's not,
Cujo.
he'll dial in at some point. So, and then from Mexico City, we have Andres Moreno.
Hi guys. Hey Chris, how you doing?
Hey, good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Great seeing you guys again.
Yeah, man. And then from Detroit, Michigan, I know there's a lot of panel members this time. Detroit, Michigan, Mark Haygen is joining us.
Hey, it's nice to put faces to all the names I see all the time.
There's Mark. I love it. I know. We met once years ago, and I've only just followed your adventure on social media since what? That was 10, 12 years ago? How long ago was that when you were here?
2006.
Oh, wow. That was my first full year doing it. Second year. Oh, that's crazy. I remember that. It was a really cool story. Anyway, we'll tell that later.
All right.
But it's been really good following your adventures and seeing what you've been up to in Detroit, man. It's very cool.
Thanks, man.
And from Dallas, Texas, the owner of Dependable Expendables and the organizer of the Lone Star Mixer there in Dallas, Texas, Tyler Faison.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey, Tyler.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for putting it on.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for being here. And last but not least, but what is probably the biggest think tank forum on the internet for production sound, and also the largest searchable database for topics available, which is jwsound.net, with members in the tens of thousands all over the world. I consider it the largest think tank for our craft that is in existence. The moderator and the owner and inventor of that, curator, whatever you want to call him, Jeff Wexler, thank you for joining us. I appreciate it.
Hey, everybody.
Hey,
so anyway,
Mr. Yoda.
So this is the panel. I know it's a lot of people, but we're gonna try and throw this ball back and forth, and it'll be a fun topic. But first, there's a couple of things I wanted to go over in regards to what is going on in production sound today, and I'd love for the panel, if you can chime in on any of this, that'd be great. And also people from the audience, if you want to talk or add to the conversation, go to the reactions tab on the bottom, use the raise your hand function, and we will get to you. And let me see, I haven't opened up the chat window, so if you want to put something in the chat to add to the conversation, you can do that too. If I can see it in a timely fashion, I'll mention it for sure. But definitely raise your hand and use that function, and feel free to join in the conversation. But I wanted to on this section to go over new gear that people are using. There's the field reports. I would love to hear from the field on the Lectrosonics DSR4, who is using that right now. Also the Sound Devices Nexus. I've got one friend that I know that's using it and who's raved about it, especially after the most recent firmware. But then any other stuff. I also want to chat about new films, new TV shows that are out right now that you think are really a must watch for people like us. And then also, the awards season. CAS awards are tonight, and I know I'm going to be there. Jeff's going to be there. A handful of us are going to be there. It'll be fun. It's fun to reconnect with people. But this is that section of the chat. So is anybody using? We'll start with the DSR4. Is anybody using that right now for in the field? Anyone? Do you have them, Tyler?
Yeah, we have one in one of the bags. I haven't used it myself. I haven't been out in the field the past week or two. But all indications are great. Nick Mariano at Electro, he did one of the show and tell events down at Dependable Expendables. So we got to dive in deep with it, and then we have one in one of the bags. There's a firmware update that came out just yesterday for anybody that does have it, adding some I believe group naming features and stuff like that. So they're actively pushing forward with that, and I believe Sound Devices is working hard on the firmware compatibility for SL2 integration, full SL2 integration. But it's functional right now, so we like where it's going.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I know Adam Young has been using it in his rig for the past few weeks, and I wish he could have been here today, because he'll have a nice comprehensive report for us. I know Blas Kisic was using one also. But if anybody's using one, please chime in and let us know. On the Sound Devices Nexus, my friend Stephen Morrow has been using it. He's working currently on Joker 2, and he doesn't do this very often. I've known him for years, but he used the word game changer for him. He's got 8 channels of it running right now on his show, and they had a few really small, tiny, like minor issues that were all fixed with the latest firmware update this past week. And so now he's been really stoked on it. It's been really solid for, he says the sound floor, the noise floor is really low on them. The sound is really crisp. The range is really good. And it's just a really easy piece of gear for him to work on. And I've babysat his cart on numerous movies, and he's gone from the old school venues and has been moving up. And so now this is this is the first time he's been using the Nexus, and he's only a few months into it, but he's really loving it there. Has anybody else used the Nexus at all? In our pool of 41 participants, nobody yet. What is everybody using for receivers right now? What's most common? I still have a collection of SRCs and SRCs, and I have an old school field venue on my main cart, which has been so rock solid. Steve in the chat, Eleanor. Steve Morrow has the original venues, venue 1s. Yeah, which same thing. I see SRCs and 411s. Charlie. What is Charlie Mead talking about? Show yourself, Charlie. He says, I've been running the DSR4 with no problems, no Nexus. All right, so Charlie has a DSR4, but apparently in this moment he's shy, which he's never shy. So, yeah, anybody who knows Charlie Mead. So, where are you at, Charlie? Oh, there he is. Talk to us, buddy.
Hey, you hear me?
Yeah, there you are.
There we go.
I'm not shy. I just didn't know how to raise my hand. No problems with the DSR4s. I was running 2 of them through the SL2. The first one was 2 vector pairs, and the second one was running 3 in switch. All of them were running the D² digital transmitters, and no hits all day. Beverly Hills, so kind of perfect situation. But yeah, it was great. No problems.
Sweet. Very cool. And which transmitters are you using with them? Are you using digital or?
I was using digital, a pair, kind of a hybrid between the DVUs and the single battery SM, digital SM, the DVSM.
Okay. Do they work with the analog hybrid transmitters as well?
Yeah, they have all the
Backwards compatible?
compatibility modes, the NA, NU, EU, all those pairs. And I think that the cool thing that I'm excited about in the new firmware update is they're updating the colors. Because right now it's kind of difficult. Like select is like a white, but non-selected is like a black. So it's kind of difficult for your eye to discern, which one is which. So I believe select is becoming yellow, which I'm like, all right, I'll finally be able to figure that out.
Nice. And I think Blas told me that you can, even though it's 4 channels, you can set it up like when you're working on that channel where you see only that one channel, so it uses the full screen.
Yeah, and histogram, having the histogram on there to actually show you, because I mean that's what you're really gaining over an SR, right? An SR is just showing you in the instant, where that level is, but the histogram's giving you, 10 seconds of time, showing you, what happened there, so you don't look down and you just didn't miss it already.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. So, and how many do you have in your rig?
I've got two of the DSR4s. The thing that I noticed is they're kind of, because it boots it in digital mode, if you are to use like a DSR4 and an SR simultaneously, you won't get access to all 4 channels through the SL2. So if you have an SL2, it really wants you to have 2 DSR4s because otherwise you're going to be booting into analog mode. And so you're not going to get all of the audio passed through on 3 and 4 out of the back of the SL2.
Nice. Okay. Very cool. Very cool. And I'm not going to be afraid to leave a little silence here in case somebody else wants to jump in.
Well, if you're asking what we're using, I moved on to the Shure Axients in my bag. I have
Nice.
I got 3 ADX5s and still have a pair of 411s that I use for additional stuff, board feeds, handheld mics, emergency talent mics, and such. But 6 channels of talent mics with the Shure Axients.
Nice. How long have you been using those?
I've had them since November of last year.
Okay. Sweet. I know
And,
lamps. Oh yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say it's like I needed to switch to full digital. I was having so much trouble around the Midwest here, just getting 6 to 8 channels of compatible channels, and it's like I was just running into issues. And since I've gone digital, it was timing why I went with Shure, but since I've gone digital, I haven't really had any problems with RF. Everything's been great with the system.
Nice. Very good.
Do you like the transmitters?
Pardon me?
Do you like the transmitters that you have with them? I mean, which transmitters are you using? Right?
Yeah, I bought the ADX1Ms, the smaller ones. I plan on getting just a couple of the ADX1s, just for a little range. But I carry a pair of Betzels on the bag, and it's like on the cart. I've got I forgot what it's called, but I've got the RF venue antennas, and it's like I haven't had any dropout issues for the work that I do. I don't do like major features like I'm sure some of you guys do. So we do indies, we do close-up corporate stuff, we do documentary work where we're not that far away. So it's like range is not a total issue with the system anyhow.
Nice.
There you go.
Very cool.
We did a couple of tests this week, right, Chris, regarding the RF range with my ADX5D system as well. And it was, we were trying to use passive, PSC passive antenna and Shure active antenna. And it was pretty good, It was in the line of sight, but the range was kind of almost a block away. But of course, it depends on the block.
Right.
But I call it's a kind of long block. So I don't know. How long was that, Chris?
It was about maybe from my house to Magnolia Boulevard. What is that? It's probably almost 1,000 feet. I mean, it's a long ways. I want to say there's at least 10 or 12 houses down to Magnolia, and then there's a big business. So yeah, and what we did is we started at 2 milliwatts. We found what the edge of that range was, and then bumped it up to the next level, found the edge of that range, and then up to 40, found the edge of that range, and then we changed from passive to active. and then ran the active antennas 50 feet out to the sidewalk around the corner and down as far as we could. And then we maxed out that range. So we really did see with the from the passive to the active antennas, from the lower transmitting power to the higher transmitting power, we really were able to map out kind of what our effective operating ranges were. And there were nice generous increases for every step up that we took. So it was,
by the way, and we were using Belden 50-footers cables.
Yeah, right. So
there's a very good point to stand out here.
Yeah, so it worked out really well.
Pretty good.
It sounded good. Well, it sounded as good as lamps can sound on a microphone, but you know. but
it's pretty good. So very solid.
Those seem to be the three systems, you know, Lectrosonic sound devices and Shure. Is there any other Eleanor is asking low loss. No, not low loss cables. They were the regular RG58X, which the low loss cable is RG8, I think, and it's bigger. It's much more bulky. Yeah, not the thick ones. I'm reading. I don't know if you guys are seeing her on the chat, but anyway, but no, it's definitely standard RG58X. I want to say it was, right, Lamps? Was that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And this, you know, all this variety of tools coming into our industry, I see only positive things. It's good for everybody, you know, it's good for the industry, for sound mixers, for everybody. So I'm really excited about the Nexus. And Nexus, it's crazy. I was dealing with that a little bit this week as well, but not that deep, but it's very impressive. It's like it looks like a next level kind of toy, you know. It's very cool, very cool.
Well, to have 16 channels in a little box like that is pretty impressive. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You can have 16 channels in one piece in a bag. So
yeah.
For people working on bag all the time, it's crazy.
Right, and we definitely, I'm remiss to forget, but we definitely have to mention Zaxcom, because Zaxcom's wireless it sounds really great, and I've used it on a few occasions, and I would say they're one of the other designers that I mean, if my memory serves, they were one of the first companies to really take end user feedback directly, and then directly incorporate that in a timely fashion into their new designs, along with coming up with their own really good ideas. So
well, they were the first to have digital also, which solved a lot of problems for people right away, in that you could get a whole lot more transmitters in a much narrower area.
Yeah, the filtering game, and the high density wireless thing. Yeah, it's
and they had pretty much a 10-year jump on everybody else in terms of that. So
I think Lauren's using that Lauren's been using that rig, right?
Oh yeah.
Lauren?
Yeah, I use Zaxcom.
Yeah, how's it been treating you over the years?
It's been pretty solid, and I have really old transmitters. I have the LA2s, so I'm sure once I can upgrade to some ZMT4s, it'll be even more fantastic.
Nice.
Yeah.
And how many? Oh, go ahead, Jeff.
No, I was going to mention Zaxcom just because I never want them to be left out. But sure. I figured they don't have anything particularly new right at the moment. They will have some new things coming up, I can tell you, quite exciting stuff. But it certainly served me well for for all those years. And I didn't want to chime in with it because I'm retired now and I'm not using anything.
I know. I still have the tent that I bought from you. I love that thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've got some other stuff you might want, Chris. I'm still trying to clear out my shop, which is filled with all sorts of things that people don't even use anymore.
We might need to organize a garage sale there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You let me know when, and people will show up. But Santa Monica, that's where it'll be. But we're also planning another flea market type sale coming up this spring too. So that date will come out soon. I haven't worked out all the details yet, but so there will be one of those. So I'm sure we can find you some volunteers and truck all your stuff over here and set up a table for you.
Yeah, flea market's great.
Yeah, I haven't managed to bring anything too significant to any of the flea markets in the past, but now that I have a whole shop that's doing nothing except housing all this stuff. I mean, even the number of cases I have about 60 or more, Pelican cases that are still in really good shape. Somebody could use them,
It's funny. One of the common things that we've seen at our past flea markets has been like a little area by the door. Like somebody will put a big box or put a sign and it'll just say free stuff.
That's
and
what I should
just
do.
Start leaving stands. People left Pelican cases there. It's just like whatever people wanted to just get rid of, they just left.
Yeah, because
somebody walks by and
I'm not looking to recoup any money or anything on it. It's depressing to look in my shop at all this stuff that, and some of it, as I was saying, it's stuff that, thousands of feet of XLR cable, who's using that these days?
know, right?
Nobody.
I think I carry like 5 or 6 with me on every job, but that's it. Like,
yeah. Oh yeah.
That's only if things get really dire. So that's crazy.
And we find ourselves carrying more extra Cat 5 than anything else nowadays, it seems.
Yeah, right.
Yep. Cat 5 and Cat 6. But I definitely wanted to mention Zaxcom. They've certainly pushed the bar on the technology over the years and have been ahead on a lot of things. So big shout out to those guys. And Colleen, she's lovely. But anyway, I want to see if Xenia Vinogradova was able to join us. Have you seen her, Lamps?
No, she's not here yet.
All right, if she shows up, we will pivot over to her. She's going to give us an update. She's still in Kiev, Ukraine. She's been there. We got to know her on the COVID chats. She was there every week.
Safe and sound.
Yeah, and so once the invasion started, a lot of us were just thinking about her, and she,
she's hanging in there.
She wanted to make sure she was safe. She was regularly sharing on social media, so we knew she was okay. But her whole world just got turned upside down. And
oh boy!
I really have a deep admiration for her because after that started, she got all kinds of offers for people in Europe, to say, hey, come with me, you can work on my next movie. From Oscar-winning sound mixers that were just offering to move her there, give her a job, put her up everything. And she turned it down. She said, no, I got to stay here. I got to help organize. I got to do that. She had, a dream shot, thrown at her, and most people would have been like, sure, I'll take it. But no, she didn't. She stayed. She helped her community organize, and she's still there. And so
it's that kind of spirit that has sustained the Ukraine people, all together.
Yeah. Yeah, and she's, so she's been a big inspiration to me, and we worked with her on an initiative called Safe and Sound Ukraine, where she was raising money for walkie-talkies, digitally encrypted walkie-talkies, because the Russians didn't know how to they were using old school things that could be monitored very easily, but she ended up raising money for a lot of these digitally encrypted 5 or 10 watt walkies that were very powerful, that they would then use for the hospitalers, is what they call them there, which is basically emergency response crews that go and pick up wounded soldiers and bring them back, or wounded civilians, anybody that needs medical attention, which is a lot of people there. So she was providing raising money to provide radios for those people, to coordinate their rescue and basically what are the big ambulances that run through the city, collecting wounded people for medical care. So anyway, if she joins us, I'd love to get an update from her and see how she's doing. But with that being said, let's see. We'll go ahead and move on to our moderated topic. It's 10:30. So the do's and don'ts of social media. Let's start with. I want to hear from all the panelists, like one by one. I guess we'll start with Kyle. Let us know about the Vancouver group. How did that start, and what purpose does it serve in your community? And we might hear some redundant answers, which is totally fine. but I just want to get a sense of each group. How did your group develop, and what is the hey, Cujo just popped in. How did the group get started, and and what are the main purposes it's serving for the local community right now?
Yeah, so the Vancouver one, I started it about 8 years ago, and at the time, it was really started trying to tackle the non-union work in Vancouver, and trying to get the mixers to come together and raise the rates and collectively kind of bring the floor up essentially, and we basically banded together and used the group as a tool to say, so and so just called me and this is what I offered, and kind of hold the line, and and that's kind of what it originally started as, and it's kind of morphed into now really a way for the community just to come together. We now use it for everything from selling items to just chatting, and we have fun little things that pop up, like what everybody's doing on Fridays, and it's one of those things that it's really been now a tool for education, introducing new people. We also use it a lot for work and sharing jobs and that kind of stuff. But it's really it's morphed into a tool really just to bring the community together.
Nice. Yeah, you guys do a call time Fridays, right?
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. And it was good. We had one of our mixers popped up with that, and it used to be his thing that he would do on a regular basis. And then it was kind of funny because he started getting busy and forgot to do it, and then other people started picking it up. And so it's funny. Call time Friday. Yeah. We're not sure who wins or loses at it. It depends whether you're.
I remember the old roll calls back in the day. I mean, it was really all about who was working late, who was going deep, and yeah, and there were definitely times when I was sitting in the middle of the Angeles National Forest at 2 a.m. on my little, in my little tent with my sound cart, and then it was kind of neat to realize, no, I'm not by myself. There's other mixers out there doing the same thing. Some of them are on stages, some of them are out freezing their butt offs like me. Yeah. Hey, but we're all together. So
it's amazing how such a simple tool like Facebook is really, for us, it's really morphed our community and brought it together in a way that we never had before. We never we never chatted, we never talked, and it started as an idea in a coffee shop and morphed into the Facebook group, and now it's just I'd love to see us get more and more active, but it brings us together in a way that on a regular basis we're chatting on there, we're talking, and whether it be, hey, so-and-so's got a free giveaway piece of gear or selling something, it's really, it's become a crucial tool. It's one of the, the biggest tools in our arsenal, I would really say, as a community. So. Yeah.
And actually there was one thing I jumped over that I should have covered first, but Jeff, because there's a time, like, it's a really strong tool for us, but there was a time when this tool didn't exist, and then it slowly developed from like Usenet groups, message boards, and then so I want Jeff to take a few minutes just to tell us how that all started. What did you witness, Jeff? Like,
way before the internet or any of this stuff, we used to rely on usually before and after union meetings. People would get together and talk about stuff, not so much labor issues, which you might expect would be, but just a lot of social things, and a lot of sometimes we talk about some new gear. And you have to remember that also back then there was not nearly as much discussion of gear, because for motion picture sound, for sound for picture, you were going to use a Nagra. There was no really big question about the recorder. Sometimes somebody would find, there'd be a new wireless that was out that, everyone was already sick of their Vegas, but they had to use them. So we'd have those discussions, and that also would carry over into times when we would get together, not in union meetings, but just in other kinds of get-togethers, particularly at one or two of the sound houses, like at Audio Services. You'd run into people and you'd ask them, what they're doing. Oh, I'm on this job and I've had to use all of this stuff. And they're in there looking at whatever the latest equipment is to see if there's something that could help their jobs. And And then
and audio. For those of you who don't know, audio services is what Location Sound was called before it became
Yes.
Location Sound.
Right, and there was an audio services on the East Coast first, and then Dick Topham started one actually just in an office building on Sunset in Hollywood on like the 7th floor. It was just one big room. That was audio services on the West Coast, but it grew and then eventually became LSC. And we had Coffee Sound, and we had Wilcox and various other, and we would have discussions there about stuff, and it was great when the internet showed up. And this was well after CompuServe and those sorts of things. You know, we had the bulletin boards,
Right.
which people would use, which was really, you know, limited text chatting, sort of. It was literally like the analogy to a bulletin board. People would post things, and you could find out about jobs coming up and various other things, and that sort of morphed into Usenet, where the biggest and longest running one was Ramps.
Yes, I remember Ramps. Yeah.
Which was very useful and very well attended. And
it was also very intimidating for us new people.
Well, I
Ramps
don't.
was very intimidating.
Well, one of the intimidating factors was that we did end up with a couple of really not very nice people who treated Ramps as their sort of playground to just be nasty and abusive to everyone and to companies, and their opinions were more important than anybody else's opinions. And that was finally what drove me to start JW Sound, which, believe it or not, was 17 years ago.
Wow.
We started in 2006, and it was pretty much a reaction to what had gone on Ramps that was not good. And I wanted to do something that would give people a venue to continue the discussions. And fortunately, within about a month, the majority of people that had been on Ramps came over to JW Sound. And it was just a sigh of relief from everyone that they were at a place that was just much more civilized. And also, I used the forum discussion group format, which was a very common format at that time, being used by companies for their support and various things, and was not really being used that much in terms of like social media. And it certainly, you know, in light of seeing what's happened with Facebook and everything else, it has its limitations, but it also has some interesting features in that it was much easier than like with Ramps, with the Usenet groups. You really couldn't post pictures easily or video or also do any searching for things that had happened. I mean, Facebook is the worst as far as that goes, but you know, Facebook, I refer to it as like the big toilet roll, which is, you know, people keep pulling off sheets and all, and you want to go back and look at something that, you know, maybe only happened like 3 days ago. And a lot of times it's almost impossible to find.
Yeah, the search functions on Facebook leave a lot to be desired, which is why JW Sound is such a good searchable database. And I'll say about Ramps. I think Ramps was a little more crazy because there was a layer of anonymity there where nobody ever saw each other in real life. There was a lot of handles, no real names. So that caused a lot of people to have this they could deflect with the keyboard and
it's so true, which is why when I started JW Sound, I couldn't demand it, but I encouraged people to sign up with their names. And it didn't work out. And there's a lot of people that are even on JW Sound now that are not using their real names, but eventually we figured out who they were. And, you know, and it has continued to be just a little bit more civilized, I think, than some of the others, but it's less immediate. It's a little bit more work. The format itself requires that you be a little bit more thoughtful when you're posting than your typical social media type thing. And so for a while I was worried that, well, you know, Facebook is going to take over everything, and you know, I will have a site that nobody goes to. But we still we've had over 30,000 people register, from around the world, from 9 different countries.
On JW
on
Sound.
JW Sound, yeah.
Right.
And
yeah.
and
the
it's
Facebook
still,
group certainly didn't detract from that conversation at all.
yeah. And I still, I still enjoy the good aspects of Facebook, and I enjoy keeping JW Sound going, because I still run into people who say, yeah, it's very, very important. And, and I've done some searches myself and have gone back and looked at some of my replies to things and some of the other core members of JW Sound who have been so generous with their knowledge and so helpful. And I'm going, wow, even some of the things I wrote, I was impressed, that I actually think I did, help to steer people in sort of the right direction in terms of their thinking about the work, so.
That's very good. Yeah. And I
we'll
know
keep it going,
Yeah. I took a cue from Ramps and then JW, where with LA Sound Mixers, it was important to me because it started out as a local group. It was important to me to have a lot of social meetups during the year. I mean, now we have our monthly meetup plus 3 major social events a year. So we have at least 15 social events
Chris,
a year.
You are the master of all of this. I mean, it's just, you've done such a good job with it.
I'm just refining the ideas. People like you have definitely paved the way for it, and we're just trying to, we're just adding to your original idea, really. But by having 15 meetups during the year social, people are the anonymity is stripped away a little more on LA Sound Mixers, at least. So hopefully. Hopefully, that helps people just be a little more real, be a little more human to each other.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not like the Ramps page where everybody just hid behind their screen.
Oh yeah, and people could get away with anything, and it wasn't even a question of trying to moderate it because it was just so completely out of control. But
yeah, for sure. So thank you for that history. That's really cool. Kyle, thank you for your answer on that. Would you say your page is more of a locally focused page, like it's definitely locals only there?
Yeah, there's definitely there's a few things, but we very much we found that there wasn't something designed specifically for the locals to talk about local topics. So it is definitely more of a local page. There's a few people here and there, and we've always had a running consensus about whether to open it up to say vendors and things like that, and it's always been to say no, to keep it a little bit more local, to have more of an open conversation. But yeah, so
nice. And okay, so
Chris, I want to say Martin Schulte from who's one of our great international people, just posted a thing about finding JW Sound and Ramps and including
can you read it to us? Can you read it to us?
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, he could actually tell us himself, but
Martin, you want to jump in and
but I did want to say that I strive to be as international as possible, because I think there's so much to be learned from people in other countries that are, basically doing the same work, but they're really not doing the same work because, again, affected by the overall culture and the fact that people do things differently in different countries. But I'm also, I have to tell you that there are times when I run into people at various events and they tell me about stuff happening on JW Sound and all that, and they're talking to me, and then all of a sudden it dawns on them. They said, "You're the JW and JW Sound," yeah, that's me.
I know. Going to the Ramps parties and now the JW Sound party in Vegas was always a lot of fun, because that was the one time where everybody could see each other, and it was those are always a lot of fun over the years. But yeah, so no, Martin's big point was, he stumbled onto the Ramps page and then JW Sound, and both of those things have been a big part of his development, and I think that's true for a lot of us. So it's we graduate to stuff. Hey, Gene just walked by. Gene Martin, the lovely proprietor of this establishment. Anyway, but cool. Yeah, thank you for interjecting that. And let's go to Richard Thomas, if you're available. I don't know if you're rolling your playback right now.
Where's Richard?
I'll reiterate the question, and if he's not available, we can move on to the next person.
He's at work, right?
Yeah, he's doing playback on a music video shoot right now.
Quick question. What did RAMP stand for?
Recording Arts Motion Picture Sound.
Gotcha. I've always wondered.
Yeah.
Rec Arts Motion Picture Sound.
Yeah. So, but the question is how did your local community, just the local community and your online forum, how did it develop and what purpose does it serve at this point? So, Richard, if you're able to jump in, we'll take your answer anytime. But Lauren, if you want to chime in on how how the New York scene uses that page.
Sure. Our New York Sound Mixers Facebook page, it's not terribly active. We're not like the LA Sound Mixers groups, but one thing that we use it for is to organize in-person meetups. So just like keeping track of when the next meetup is, and we do them every month. So I know a lot of places, they kind of only do them like once a year or don't even do them at all. I actually went to Tulsa and organized a meetup there, and they're like, wow, it took somebody from 1,500 miles away to get us to get together in person. Like, I don't know why anyone's not doing it, but here in New York, it's like, we love them. We, whether there's 5 people that show up or some of the bigger ones that Gotham hosts, we get like 50, 60 people, and it's always a good time. And we always just have it super casual. You just show up, you can come and go whenever you want. We just say what restaurant we're going to, and it's always a good time.
Yeah, I gotta say your monthly meetups there inspired me to do monthly meetups here. We weren't doing them every month in LA, and then when I saw you doing it, I was like, man, that makes a lot of sense. So you were a big inspiration.
I didn't start them, and I don't know if he did, but Zay Frias was running them for a while, and then I would be like, when's the next meetup? When's it? And then he's like, do you just want to organize them from now on? Because he kind of joined the union and got a little too busy. I will say usually it mostly is non-union people that are showing up, especially if we have it on a weekday. And then, even union people on the weekends, they like to spend time with their families. But it is something that I do want to get more union people coming, because I do think it's important for them to tell us that want to join the union what it's like. But I just feel like when they're on a show, they're just so consumed in the show that they're like, I don't want to go and talk about sound with a bunch of sound mixers right now.
Yeah, they go down the rabbit hole and they just want to decompress in that turnaround time.
Lauren, you did get into 52 though, right?
No, I'm just permit.
Oh, really?
No,
okay.
They haven't opened yet.
Oh.
Yeah, joining 52 is way different than it is for 695.
Oh, I know. I've followed people, the whole dramas, but so well.
Yeah, and I will make one confession. I started the New York Sound Mixers page many years ago because I had a couple of friends there that liked the LA Sound Mixers page, but it's one of those things where I started it, but I don't do any admin stuff there really. I don't moderate it because I feel like it should be moderated by local people. Same goes for the Texas page. I started that. I'm from Texas, but I didn't start working in production sound until 5 years after I moved to LA. So, but I really felt a kinship with people who do production sound, and then I also feel a kinship with people who are from my home state. So I started Texas Sound Mixers page as well, but both of those pages are moderated by local people, and I have very little to do with what goes on there. I just my only presence there is to help promote things like this, inter-community kind of stuff. But for the most part, Tyler and Jason Manzano run the Texas page. It was Jose Frias and Brian Naris that originally were the moderators for the New York page. And then I think Brian moved on to another craft, and Jose again got really busy. So we're really thankful that Lauren was able to step in.
I believe he does VTR now as well. So he's not really doing sound too much. I bought some of his old stuff from him. I also wanted to add though, aside from Facebook, and Facebook is good. We have the local groups. So like if somebody needs to rent gear from someone, very specific to the New York area, we'll post there, or for the meetups. But we also have, besides from Facebook, we have a Clubhouse group. When Clubhouse is a voice chatting app. Yep. And Carl Weldon started a production sound group. So we'll just go on there almost every day. We have a room open. People can come and go whenever they want. And we're just talking about, what's going on in their personal lives. But we'll then, go into talking about jobs and equipment and things like that. I also started a gamer Discord channel for sound mixers. So any sound mixers that game, let me know. We try to organize, we played Among Us, we've played Mario Kart. So just like, it's kind of cool to just like we can play a game but still talk about work, just with people who like understand what you're going through. We can kind of decompress together. It's really fun.
That's awesome. That is really cool. That is really cool. I know Sheridan Toyota, he's a boom operator here in LA, and he organizes Mario Kart events for people. And we actually had an in-person event here in Burbank, and they have this huge bank of Mario Kart actual arcade games, like 8 of them. And so he came up with a bunch of people showed up. We did this real-time tournament. They had a bar there. It was awful.
Yeah, he really wanted to do a New York versus LA tournament. But I feel like there's a lot more LA Mario Kart players, and I feel like we would totally get crushed.
So
he is pretty
USC
serious.
versus UCLA. I hadn't heard of Clubhouse. Can you tell me something about that?
Yeah, that's kind of like it's like a phone call, right? It's mostly it's all auditory.
It's sort of like if you're on Zoom, but there's no video. You're just
Oh,
talking.
okay.
So it's a lot easy because like some people do it while they're walking the dog or doing the dishes, or just like, it's just something to have on the background. You can even mute yourself and just listen to other people talk like it's a podcast.
Oh yeah, interesting.
Nice, very cool, very cool. Yeah, I remember when it first came out, taking part in some of the chats. So very, very cool way to do things. In my house, it's kind of hard for me to join that stuff because I don't really have that much alone time with 2 kids and a dog and family and grandparents that live with us. There's always people around. So
Wow.
I can only imagine Grandpa Mo walking through the house going, who is that talking? Why are they talking? But it's really cool. I'm glad it's a format. I'm glad it exists, and it's, seems like a really cool way to, share ideas and disseminate information. But so next, thank you, Lauren. Next, we'll go up to Aaron Cooley. I'll reiterate the question, which is, how did your, you're in Atlanta, how did your local communities develop, and what purpose do they serve for the local community there? How have you been able to use it to help build the community, and also to, to help you've used it, Aaron, to help it. You've helped a lot of people just with new technology, explaining it, making it a little more easier for us to understand. And that's something that I know you've used social media with, and it's been a huge help to a lot of us. But tell us a little bit about how the groups there in Atlanta are organized, and what purposes they serve, if you can.
Thanks for asking me. I appreciate it, and thanks for having me in your group. Basically, we're piggybacking on everything that Jeff pioneered, and that you went along with, and that all these other local regional groups are doing. Kyle over in Vancouver. We're using our group for a number of things, both union and non-union, and that's to help local mixers understand rational and reasonable pricing structures, so that we can all raise the floor. And I think Atlanta has been especially successful in that arena. We see the rates that go on internationally and around the country, and it's staggering how low that they are, knowing that the cost of living is effectively equal pretty much everywhere. LA has its own struggles with housing, but essentially the cost of living is the cost of living everywhere. And we have been very successful in educating both those that are here and those that are coming here in what a proper business structure looks like, as opposed to just, chucking numbers out there to get a job. We're educating our sound mixing community in the aspects of small business management, which is something that sadly, to my knowledge, no college, no arts college is teaching the kids that are going, Full Sail or any of the other big schools that are teaching sound for film or sound as a career. they teach you how to run Pro Tools, and they teach you gain structure and signal flow and all of those things, but they don't teach you a damn thing about how to run a business. And that is what's killing so many of these young mixers that come into the fold. And I think it's our responsibility as people who have come up in this business, even though I'm a relative newcomer. I've only got 12 years in the business of TV and sound, or film, sound for TV and film, but I've been a small businessman my whole life. And I think it's our responsibility as the adults in the room to help the young ones come up and learn the things they need to learn. So that's one way that we're using the social media to improve our community. And the other thing is just like what everybody else is doing. It's a communication space where we can discuss new technologies and new products. And for me, I'm a bleeding edge technology nerd. And I started using Dante on film sets in 2015. And oddly enough, that's only a few years ago, but apparently I was one of the early adopters.
Yeah, you were definitely pushing the envelope, and actually for a while you were the only person that had the envelope.
Yeah, and now Dante is ubiquitous on film sets, and it's only going to get better. Now I'm the holder of the envelope on fiber optic and remote RF. Now, I certainly wasn't the first one to put a remote rack out there. I know, I think Mark Ulano probably did that 25 years ago, running a snake across the stage and out to his trailer. But
yeah, I helped him put that system together. It was an Aviom system that he was using.
I have a Dante enabled Aviom system myself.
Yeah.
But I didn't do anything new there. I just changed the technology and used it via Dante over Ethernet, and then I adopted Dante over fiber. And now I spoil myself, and I work inside my recording truck that was built by the amazing, legendary Jim Hawkins, the Digital Diesel.
Nice.
Which
I didn't know Jim Hawkins did your truck.
It was his truck. I bought it.
Oh, it was his truck?
Yeah, I bought his truck when he retired from
cool.
TV and film. It came with a state-of-the-art DM2000 console and a full Pro Tools rig. And now I've upgraded that to an SQ7 console, but I still run everything Dante over fiber.
Right.
And I find myself helping a lot of people with fiber optic technology and working through things that way. And also, one of the things that me and a couple other guys here in town are doing is RF coordinating and RF management in the film workspace. I've invested an unreasonable amount of money in RF coordination hardware, and now am working with a few productions. Whit Norris helped me get on a project called Blue Beetle, and we did the RF coordination for the entire production to include all the Wi-Fi for the production office, all the Wi-Fi for the video, for the lighting console, for camera and Teradex, and for the sound department. And we coordinated RF for the entire project. And that's an arena that we're pushing forward here in the Atlanta marketplace, because everybody knows that the RF landscape is getting worse and worse and worse. I can't possibly imagine shooting in Chicago or Dallas right now, because it's an ugly monster. And everywhere else is undergoing the same kind of problems. So we're using social media to push those nuggets of knowledge out, and I've got to say that it's been a mad success on all fronts. And you know, as much as I dislike some aspects of social media, I find that it is largely the only tool that works on this scale, you know. And if it hadn't been for guys like Jeff that started JW Sound to get all this ball rolling, we'd just be spinning our wheels in the dark somewhere.
Yeah, it certainly provides a really good platform for you to do what obviously you enjoy the whole process of discovering these things and pushing the envelope and then sharing it with us. And it makes for a fuller life, you know, that it's not just, you don't feel like you're alone on the set somewhere trying to figure something out. And you know, it's a kind of connection that I think is really valued by everybody.
Yeah, I'll say it's because too, with social media as a tool to, you know, that way of communicating, it really helps in this respect, because RF coordination like that on a show scale, and then going from show to show, especially when you have two companies shooting in close proximity to each other, it happens a lot here in LA. You know, it's not just about the technology and about what what program to use and how to find your answers. A lot of it too is protocol. It's a matter of how to deal with the other humans involved in this technical process, and you know, because that's the whole other dynamic that's part of it. And you know, so the more you can disseminate the technical knowledge, and the more we all learn that, and that becomes hopefully second nature, we can then you know, we can then be a little more human about it, and when dealing with other people, and kind of understanding, you know, seniority, who should have standing, you know, if you have two people on the same frequency, who should move? Well, who was there first? Who is, you know, you start to peel away the layers of that onion, and come up with a compromise, you know, that you know, dealing with other humans is not something that, you know, is you know, it's something that we have to figure out when it comes to RF coordination. And
yeah, again, as Cujo was saying, it's not something that's taught in film school, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
For
you
sure.
know, Brett Murray and I were in North Carolina, about a year and a half ago, I guess now, and we were working on a show called Peripheral, which they shot a great deal of their stuff in the UK. Then they went to North Carolina and shot the rest of the show, and they had both of us up there as additional unit mixers, and we were literally working 50 meters apart from each other, shooting two different complete units at the same time, and each of us both running 12 channels of wireless. So we did the human thing that you're talking about. We sat down and said, okay, how are we going to work this out? Now, fortunately, we both use the same brand of wireless, and we were able to get together on everything, and we just ran a massive coordination scheme, and we were able to, both of us, go to work at the same time. But again, it's like you say, Chris, it's the human side of things, and it goes back to what you're saying, Jeff, is that they don't teach these things in film school. They don't teach you how to be a good human. You just kind of have to learn that on your own.
yeah, it's it's definitely like that. There was a shoot that I worked on. It was a golf documentary. We were at the US Open Kids Golf Tournament in Pinehurst, North Carolina, and I remember on paper it should have been really straightforward, at least to the producers. It was. We're covering 9 different golfers. Each golfer will have 2 cameras and 1 sound person and 1 producer. So 18 cameras, 18 camera operators, 9 sound mixers, ENG style bag, run and gun, because we're covering, 4 days of these kids playing golf. Their full rounds, their warm-ups, their critiques with their caddies, all that stuff. But at some point, about 2 weeks out, one of us went, wait a minute. So there's going to be 9 bag rigs operating in the same proximity, 3 or 4 mics each, an IFB, each has an IFB. Somebody's got to coordinate this. So finally, so we had to. Not all the mixers were LA people. I think maybe 5 or 6 of us were, but then there were 2 or 3 that were from the Atlanta area. And so I started reaching out to everybody, like, what system do you have? You know, and then I started, what blocks do you have in your bags? And then I started carving out in a very I guess primitive way, you know, our RF coordination, at least our plan for when we hit the ground, because we all 9 of us needed to be able to work next to each other when everybody comes together and does their things. So it was an interesting job, but the RF coordination was definitely a big deal, but it was something we didn't think about until a couple weeks ahead of time.
Chris,
Yeah.
I just noticed Xenia has shown up.
Hey, very cool. Xenia, how are you?
Hi, everyone.
There she is. Hi, sweetie. How are you?
As much as I can be, I'm all right. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, okay.
I went over earlier the backstory of how we met you during the COVID chats, and you know, before the war started, and then when the war started, and Safe and Sound Ukraine. So I went over all of that earlier, and but please give us an update. How are you doing? How are things going?
Oh, are you done with covering the story?
Well, we were gonna come to you when you show up. So this is, you know, where
okay.
Yeah, but do you need a minute? We can keep talking about stuff. We can come back to you if you want.
Okay.
Well,
I can talk now if everyone is all right with it.
Yeah,
glad to see you all as always. I was always sharing with my colleagues in Safe and Sound Ukraine that I missed those online meetups when the COVID kind of descended, and you all went back offline, and I was following all this announcement of offline meetings. I was like, damn. COVID was good for me because you had so much information, so much sharing experience online. So I'm glad to see you all. Well, it's all right, as much as it can be. Year passed, we got past winter, which is great news. We are not close to a victory at the moment, which is not such a great news. Very difficult fightings in the east. If someone of you follow the news, then it's kind of tough. We continue doing some of the Safe and Sound Ukraine stuff, but with internal Ukrainian audience. We continue to provide secure communication to the medics. We're currently working with really cool volunteer battalions of paramedics, and we're providing equipment to them. So yeah, we've had a lot of time to explore which equipment could work best, and now we're providing them, and it really warms our hearts that we can help with that. So yeah, thanks everyone who joined or helped our initiative. Professional. Sorry.
Oh, is there an idea of what was our tally that we ended up raising for Safe and Sound Ukraine?
I think at the moment is like 125,000 or $130,000. So this is pretty good. Yes.
Yeah, I mean those walkies are like $500 a piece, and in wartime that price goes up
or more,
up
to 1,000 a piece if it has 256 AES encryption. Then it's kind of costly, and in the beginning of the full-scale invasion it was in deficit, so we had a lot of work to do to find the retailers. So basically this is it. I'm really grateful that you follow that. Professional wise, a lot of international crews are operating in our country, so I join in them. At the moment, one of the documentaries is actually streaming on Paramount and MTV. It's called Don't Leave Me Behind. It's about Ukrainian teenagers that were forced to leave the country and, accept the status of the refugee and adapt to new reality. So yeah, if you're interested, you can watch it. It is by Nathaniel Lesra. So yeah, Basically, this is it. If you have any questions, I'll be glad.
What's it called again? It's a
Don't Leave Me Behind.
Don't Leave Me Behind. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah, and I'll say a lot of that money that was raised that came from a lot of the sound organizations, manufacturers. The CAS made a substantial donation, as did IATSE Local 695. That was
true.
Yeah, so a lot of that money came from within, the production sound and film.
Yeah,
sound
most of it. It was like I did the estimate of what was percentage, and it was like close to 50-50 went from individuals actually and from the organization. So the AMPS, CAS, IATSE, and businesses like Lectrosonics, K-Tek, Sinella. Yeah, so like a lot of support too, informational support from them too. So it's like almost entirely was financed by the international sound community, which was really great because I had a lot of respect and I aspired to be like this level of knowledge and values that you have. And then the tough times came and it was proven to be really how I expected it to be.
Yeah.
So yeah, really glad about it.
Yeah, cool. Well, it's certainly good to see you, and I really thank you for sharing the update.
Yeah,
it means a lot that you're here.
Also, not long ago, we met up with the the most the best sound mixers that we have in Ukraine, and we discussed the organizing an association of motion picture sound, and we really looking forward to an international friendship with associations and organizations abroad. So when we get to some level, when we'll be able to offer some kind of friendship and co-working, I'll be glad to let you know.
For sure. That sounds awesome. I'd love that. That's basically what what we're dedicating this video chat to is helping people develop their local communities and for the broader sustainability of the craft. So
yeah, it's like we have like a lot of sound professionals here have problems like female sound mixers, they can travel abroad doing some projects abroad, but male guys, they can't do this because of martial law. And a lot of post-production sound facilities that they just the thing is a lot of projects are getting financed from abroad, so the whole post-production moves abroad as well. So a lot of our post-production facilities are like now in the stagnation phase. So they are looking to get so that some international productions, they outsource some work there, but some of them are hesitant because it's a dangerous area. But we're coming up with some system that can guarantee backup studios in case something happens, that it gets automatically transferred to another studio that gets the work on same level or better level. So it seems sustainable, but we still have to convince big studios and productions that we can do this. So
yeah, because a lot of that work is done remotely. So yeah, hopefully it's a good way to help keep the economy going in this time where everything is just kind of turned upside down. So that's very, very cool. Does anybody have any questions? Anybody have any questions for Xenia?
I was just wondering, in this kind of situation, hey, by the way, how you doing? Good to see you. Safe and sound, I'm glad. I was just wondering, this kind of situation, how is the RF is all around that? Is it crazy or is pretty empty? I was just wondering
Yeah, the thing is, you know, in the cities, well, like in Kiev, where it's like no fighting going on, only some missile attacks from time to time, then we have it all right. Like we have it like in a peaceful times. When you come closer to the fighting zone, then it's like, you know, question of ethics. Can you use wireless or not? Because, you know, radios that they use, they're either in VHF or UHF, and if you go with UHF and, you know, take some interview from a military guy, that it can be intercepted actually by the enemy. So if a soldier gives us some information to the, like, you know, to the director, they can actually listen to it. They can listen to where we are located, what is going on there. So, you know, you just go with like boom, or you come up with some way to get a decent audio.
Wow.
So it's like you can do it. Like if you find a frequency, if you scan it, if you're good with it, you can go, but it's just really dangerous to do it in conditions like this.
Wow, that's crazy. I never
Yeah,
thought about it.
It's a real security risk. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah.
Wow.
Xenia, you're doing a lot of dock coverage there with
Oh
various
yeah,
crews
lots of
going
it.
through.
Lots
so you're
of
running
it.
around on your bag rig, you're working. So
yeah, with a bulletproof vest too, which is kind
and
of
a helmet and
Oh my
yeah,
God.
yeah. I was like, I have those Bayer Dynamics headphones, and I just I had to borrow smaller ones just because you can't
Wouldn't fit
put
under
them
the helmet.
under. You push them under, and then it starts pressing against your, you know, skull. It's terrible, but sometimes you just have to do it because it's like security. Yeah. So this is kind of fun.
Oh my God.
Man.
You just have amazing spirit that you can keep smiling and talking to us, and just thinking about what's going on. It's just incredible. But
that's how we get by. That's how we get by. We cannot just, you know, be mourning or get depression all the time just because. How do you get through? How do you work? How do you earn? How do you donate? How do you volunteer? If you just keep getting breakdowns from it, you just adapt. That's how we do it, you know.
Wow.
There's like, I don't see, like, I see virtue in it for people who really suffered from war, who lost their loved ones. But for us, who, like, I personally, thank God, I didn't lose anyone really close. I lost a lot of people who I knew. But for me, it's just a method, not like, I don't see it as a virtue in my case. So we just have to do it to continue.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, I really appreciate the update. And, you know, hopefully every time we have a chat, I want you to join us and just let us know how you're doing.
I will be glad to. I'm really glad I got to join this time, and thank you so much for the invitation. And I look forward to listen to the rest of the call. Thank you.
So we love seeing you.
Absolutely. So thank you so much, Aaron, for summing that up about the Atlanta market and what you guys are doing there so well. Is there anything you wanted to add on to the end of what you were talking about there?
No, not really. I mean, we've covered it really well. You know, it's just if anybody is thinking about whether or not they should start a group for their region, I would encourage them to definitely do so. For those that are working on trying to solve rate problems in their area, it's not an overnight success. Atlanta has been working on our overall rate structures for probably at least 8 or 9 years. It will happen. It can happen. It's a never-ending process, and just stay with it. And the continuing education thing is just always there.
Yeah, I really want to echo that from Vancouver. It's an ongoing battle and fight, but you can be successful, and you can really achieve results. We managed to do it with our non-union productions. Really, I mean, to the point where productions were mad at us because we raised the rates. But it can be done, and it's staying together about the community is the most important thing. And even if you have one or two people that doesn't hold the line, as soon as they take a job, that means that the next producer now has to go to the next person in the group, and if you stick together and hold those rates, it's definitely possible. We've seen it.
Not everybody's going to get on board with raising their prices. Some people, and one of the things that I learned, I used to teach sales and marketing and small business management as a profession, and there's an underlying rule that happens in any marketplace for any widget or any service that is sold. There are 3 strata. There's the highest guy in town, there's the medium guy, and then there's the lowest guy in town. And those 3 people will always exist. You cannot ever get rid of all 3 of them. So you just have to decide where you want to be. If you want to be one of the highest, one of the middle, or one of the cheapest, those are the clients you're going to serve. Those are the clients that are going to continue to call you. And that's the money you're going to continue to make. And if you want to escape the strata that you're in, then you need to find the clients that are working in the strata that you want to be in. You're never going to convince the $450 all-in production company to pay you $800. It will never happen, because there are constantly a stream of low price people that will work for those dollars. And it's okay to say no and move on. So, keep it up, keep up the hard work.
Yeah, and I would say in this craft too, it's generational. There's new people coming in every year. So this is a topic that honestly will never go away. We will always be talking about it on some level. There will always be new people in the room. Every month we have this chat, there's going to be new people in the room. We could literally rehash these same subjects over and over, and there will always be a new set of ears to hear it. But Cujo's right. I mean, there's going to be those 3 tiers, and defining what you want to do is a huge part of that. And then and I think it also should be said that not every market's going to be the same either. Not every market's going to have the same frequency of jobs or the same types of jobs. There's some cities where it's mainly corporate work, where it's mainly branded content, maybe commercials, and that's it. But then there's places like Atlanta and LA where there's more narrative, there's more short films, there's more, the variety of work is different. So I think a lot of what we try to do, especially in LA when it comes to rate structure, is training people to, since the person in LA calling you, it could be anything from a low budget student short all the way up to a branded content commercial, or it could be a major commercial, or it could be a corporate thing. There's a lot of things it could be. So it's really up to us to ask those questions and qualify that job. And I would say for a lot of us here in LA, we can go through the same conversation with the same producer, and we'll probably end up within $50 of each other, just blind quoting. But that comes from establishing a rate structure, and from finding at the end of the day what makes sense for that job. Like Cujo said, like the student film is never going to be the $800 a day thing, and you can work on it, but usually, like for me nowadays, doing that is not really worth it. So I would turn those down unless there's a new boom operator and I want to help them get some reps. Then I'll do a student film all day for that stuff. But at some point it's like I did a lot of the lower budget $500,000 movies that shot here in LA, and those were a great way to get my days for contract services when I first started. That served a purpose. Those shoots still happen, but I don't do them anymore. I've gotten calls on occasion. I've tried to negotiate a few of them up, and I've been successful maybe half the time. The rest of the time I politely pass, and I'll because that job is not going to be what I want it to be. So there's no sense in me burning a bridge over it, because a $500,000 movie is a $500,000 movie. It's not going to pay as much as a movie shooting under the IATSE basic, which is a full rate thing. So but anyway, but thank you for all those ideas. That's great. Let's let's move on to Mark Haygen in Detroit. Same question.
Hang on one sec, Chris. Lauren had her hand up. I think she had a question.
Just
there you go. Go for it.
I wanted to add a little bit on that because I think talking about rates is so important. But this panel was also about discussing the do's and don'ts of social media. I think sometimes a couple people can get a little bit carried away with the rate talk to the point where it's actually pushing people away and they'll never, join us. I think it's important when we talk about rates to do video chats like this, group chats where we're talking kind of with each other, but never kind of ganging up on one person specifically. Or even just when a producer makes a post and a lot of people say like, that rate is crap, or like, 1995 called and they want their rates back. Like, it's funny to us, but it kind of makes sound mixers look kind of like jerks. Or if somebody's really excited that they got their first big mixing gig and you found out that they didn't ask for a boom op or they didn't get a great rate, and the first thing out of your mouth is like, you should have asked for more, it kind of crushes them and it doesn't exactly make them want to join us. So we kind of have to find out more ways of kind of having them eavesdrop on conversations about us talking about rates or just bad experiences that we had, but never directly telling someone like, you shouldn't be doing that, because when you do that, it doesn't really make them want to ever listen to you.
It's such a good point, Lauren.
Yeah,
excellent
point. Constructive criticism helps a lot.
Yeah, and I've had a lot of complaints of people saying like, oh, sound mixers are bullies, or like, I don't want to be a part of this. I don't want to come to the meetups. I don't want to join the Facebook groups or the Clubhouse or the Zoom calls because people are kind of being mean about it.
I dealt with one guy in our community who was so stoked because he was booked every single day at $200 a day. And he literally thought that, hey, I must be doing something right because I'm booked every single day. And I think, what is the old adage? If you're working every day, then you are not charging enough.
Yes. And it's important for them to know that, but just not to be like, you're a jerk for accepting those rates, or like.
Yeah, you're exactly right. My point is that all it took was for that person to become engaged in a community. And I befriended this person and I said, look, this is the scope and scale of what you could earn in this profession. And this is where you are. Like, all he needed was context to realize, oh, so there's a bigger world out there than what I have experienced. And it was really neat to see him light up and realize, he can make 4 or 5 times that in a day.
And when you frame it
like,
wow, you're booked every day. Wow, that means you can charge more, right? Like, you need to be making more money, dude. You're really good at your job. And like, that's how you do it. Not like you see somebody accept the job on Facebook and then you like gang up on them or just like post about them in another group, because they will eventually see that screenshot.
It goes back to being a good mentor. A good mentor is someone that will take you aside and say, look, you're doing really great here, but here's where you can improve, instead of just taking them out back to the woodshed and beating the hell out of them for 10 minutes.
I did. And that's what I did. I met with him for coffee. We face to face, and I got to hear the story and how they, what was driving them to join the craft and what they really loved about it. And then, and then I think it was overall a very positive experience. And this person was able to up their game and make a better living, by not being afraid to ask the questions about the jobs and price it accordingly.
So Chris, you have some hands up.
Yeah, I do. Thank you. Maybe a lot of people raise their hands.
Let's go to Richard Thomas. He had his hand up first. Richard, are you with us?
Hello. Yes.
There he is.
Yeah, I was just thinking. Oh, you got me.
Oh, we lost him. All right, so we'll wait for him to come back, and then let's go to Emerson.
How's it going, guys? I'm in the Chicago market. Nice to meet all of you. It's something that we discuss a lot in our community too, is rates. We started doing a little bit more of infrequent, but sort of a little more frequent meetups with each other, and we all talk to each other about rates and stuff. And we all have generally the same rate, but there's a lot of people in our community that kind of like will vary. And like you were saying, like there's always the high, low, and a high, medium, and low rates. And I think it's interesting whenever I get called for jobs from producers, like they always are telling me, oh, well, you're not like the other sound mixers that are kind of just like, they'll never even help us out. Like if it's a small crew, or you'll just pick up a C stand for us, or you'll help us out in like some small thing when there's like 4 people on set or something. And it's like kind of surprising to me that there's a lot of talk about sound mixers in a negative light, and it's something that I try to change. Especially like I made my company called Noise Boys for like that fun name, trying to make people more comfortable with sound and more adamant to want us on set and want us to talk about everything. But there's always those like bad apples they'll make us seem like we're always charging too much or making other people feel bad whenever they do it, and they'll just hound on people for all of that. And it's always discerning. But yeah, I don't know. It's always interesting to hear about rates, because like I'll quote people, since I'm still new to the game. Like I'm 3 years into this, and I'll still charge a pretty decent rate for narrative stuff. Like I pretty much stay flat for most like indie $500,000, a little less than that kind of features and stuff like that. And I'll stay in a pretty decent range where it seems fair for everybody that's involved. And then, you know, getting that like commercial rate is always great. Like I always say, like documentary and narrative for the thrills, and then commercial and corporate for the bills. Like you kind of have to vary depending on the types of jobs that you're doing. And it's, yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, thank you. We'll go on to Amaobi. Did I pronounce that right?
Yeah.
Take a shot at it.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, there you are. Did I say
Yeah.
that right?
It's you can just say Moby like the whale, it's just easier.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyways, so where I'm from is from Northern California. For us sound communities, I kind of noticed that we're sort of really like, it's like 50-50. We're like active but not really active, but we do have like a group chat where it's just like, hey, we have this gig in San Francisco, but someone needs to sub in. Can any of you sub in? And we do rent gear and all that stuff. But I kind of wish that we did have more get-togethers like you guys do for Atlanta and LA for sound mixers, but we just don't. We're just like individuals, so we just call each other just for like to rent stuff. And I kind of feel like I've seen now things like for Northern California, for example, some productions, they'll take almost like months or years to get a production done, because it's just how things are. It's just like, you know, like we don't have like renting stuff like sound and all of that. Like we have to go like certain areas to get that. And whenever I do projects over there, people are always amazed, like, oh, like you have this really fancy stuff. I'm like, you guys don't have it over here too? They're like, no, we don't. So every time I used to get my digital slate out, I swear it's like they hire me for sound in a photo shoot. Like, I kid you not, like they're always just like, oh, we have this. I'm just like, okay, I'm just doing that. But I'm kind of okay with it. So I'm just like, I kind of guess like my goal is to just get like, you know how Lauren said, like, you know, like we sound mixers kind of just bully people for lower rates. Well, I actually want people to actually like work with advanced sound equipment so they can get an idea of it and be like, oh, like, you know, I worked this sound mix before. We should have that in production. So maybe that way we can have like a better, like, so people can like take us more seriously, I guess. Because I always feel like people always like, oh, sound is just boring. We're just like, well, no, it's not. It's like, it's most important. Because I'm always teaching my kids that, because I work for this company called Youth Cinema Project as a side. But at the same time, yeah, I mean, that's just me, I guess. I'm just rambling, but just a little nervous too. But it's just nice to meet you all, and thanks you all. And yeah, I mean, I guess another question is too, I just wanted to ask, so when people put out their websites, like for networking, does that really matter or no?
Yes, I think having a website kind of makes you look legit. Same thing with having a custom email address. I think it just gives you like a little bit step up. Same thing with, you know, we talk about social media, other forms of social media like Instagram. I think especially these younger producers, just like the fact that they can look you up. And also if they're following you, just like seeing that you're active kind of keeps you top of mind for them. And I also wanted to say about the meetups, like, if you know you're wishing that you have meetups, you just have to do them. You can't say, is anyone around? Does anyone want to meet up? You can't say that. You have to say, we are meeting up Tuesday night, 7 p.m. at this bar, and you know, be there if you want. That's the only way I can get people to meet up. It's the same thing with the gaming. It's like I have to say exactly when we're doing it. Otherwise, if I just put like, when are people around, they'll never do it. You know, we're all so busy. We all have the freelance schedule. We're all terrible with like, you know, we don't do scheduling well because we don't have 9 to 5s and we're always working or not working. And, you know, the thing with meetups is even if one person shows up, it's fine. You guys have a really good conversation. So you just have to, if you want to do it, just take the initiative, make the plan. People will show up. I feel like when you make it solid, I also make a Facebook event page for it too. So people get the reminder if they put that they're interested.
Lauren, do you have a website?
It's just banjosound.com. It's very simple. I've not updated it in 5 years, but
Banjo Sound, yeah, that's good.
Yeah, it's just the fact of having a website. Like I heard, like,
yeah, it just means you take it more seriously. Yeah.
Some people, they wait like till their website's perfect to publish it, and it's like, no, just get something out there. It's better than nothing. It just establishes that you're like legit.
I know when I started out, I didn't wait till my resume was perfect. I just put anything I could possibly put on there without being dishonest, because I wanted people to be able to see that, you know, I'm available.
And for anyone who needs advice on search engine optimization, website stuff, I think Henry Rapp has the best website. And like, he ranks in New York City. If you put New York Sound Mixer, he'll come up, and, you know, he won't like come here on his own dime, but like, it's just really cool that he figured out how to kind of corner the search engine optimization. His name is,
did he help you out?
He gives really good advice. I haven't followed it yet because I'm lazy, but I'm going to start taking his advice for search engine optimization.
Oh, good.
And he wanted to join us, but he is not available, so he'll be watching the stream later. So hopefully he hears me shout him out.
Henry Rapp.
Sweet. I want to tag in real quick on one of the don'ts of social media. Not, you know, we're talking about Facebook pages and how to what your producers and directors and the people that are in the position of hiring, they will Facebook stalk you, they will Instagram stalk you, they will see what is going on in your world. So it is important that you take into consideration the things that you do post on social media. If you are interested in any particular political agenda or a social agenda, go into some thought about the things that you post, because the circle of influence and people that are going to hire you, if you don't jive with the way that they jive, then you may miss out on a job. It
pigeonholes you right away and allows them to categorize you probably in a way that isn't necessarily helpful. Yeah,
may not be fair. I mean, it's happened to me. I know it's happened to others. It's not fair that people get judged like that, but it happens every single day. So on the don'ts side of social media, freedom is great, and you are free to post whatever you want, but you are not free from the consequences of those actions. So pay attention to what you're doing on social media, because it does make a difference.
Good advice, Cujo.
Cool. Can you guys hear me? Hello?
Yeah, I just muted you because there was kind of background chatting behind you.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, my AirPods died, so I had to plug in my headphones.
Oh, that was you, huh, Chris?
Yeah, sorry. Thank you, Lamps, for keeping me in check. There's definitely a question I want to get to as soon as we can get through Andres, Mark, and Tyler on this last question. There's definitely one other question I want to tackle before we wrap it up. But thank you for that, Andres. Can you give us a clue how you've been organizing the scene in Mexico City and how that's been working out for you guys?
Yeah, great. Nice to see you all. And thanks for the word. And well, back in 2020, a friend of mine from the bars here in Mexico, Sound Mixer, Emilio Cortez, he created the group. We called it the Sonido Directo Football Club, which is called the FSA, just for laughs. Right. And it's what I have to say about since the pandemic. That's where I met LA Sound Mixers. I met Chris, and I was invited to just jump on board, and not living in LA, be able to be there was just great. Got to thank COVID for that, because it got us a lot. It opened us up a lot. I don't know how it is in a bunch of countries. I have to speak just in Mexico and what I've seen in a lot of the Latin American countries. Information is pricey. People, they know things, they don't want to let know because they think you're going to steal their job. You're going to get their job because they told you how they use their wireless or how they do their stuff. I've always been against that because, I didn't write the book. I read it. I learned how to play it, and I love sharing what I know. But as of the pandemic, a lot of people have opened up, and I think we've been fortunate enough to do that in Mexico as well. With this group we have, it's great because we're just like the mixers that do most of the production services that come down to Mexico, American, European movies, Canadian, South American movies. When they come shoot in Mexico, there's a select few mixers that were the ones pretty much doing it. And it was great to just open up between us and just share the wealth, share the info. So, I'm doing this. I had this problem. I fixed it this and that way. Somebody might say, hey, guess what? I heard you did something with an SRB the other day. How'd you fix this? I'm having this trouble. We started really opening up our minds to each other. And I really promoted that. I was invited to the group. I didn't start it, but since I was on there, I shared a lot of the stuff that I get on Jeff's page, like with Jeff Wexler. I get on Lay Sound Mixers. I'm just, keen on reading up this social media. Thank God there was something good for it, because Facebook, started off doing little farms and doing stuff. I'm glad it turned into something so important that we can all share and learn from each other and mentor. That's like just a big thing. You got to share what you know. Well, you don't have to, but I feel good when somebody asks me something and I can point them in the right direction, coach them a bit on why they should be charging maybe a little more than they're doing for what they're offering, how they could charge more if they only did this or that. It just helps make the whole industry bigger on our side, on the sound side. Sounds very, it's a very dark matter for a lot of people. They're like, oh, sound, what do you mean? What is that? It's like, it's crazy that people still don't really appreciate it as much as they should. It's opening up, but I think social media has helped a lot. Personally, it's helped. It's just great to be in contact with such great people and be able to, share your mind. And you got a question, you put it on there, and seconds later, somebody's going to give you a little insight. And as everything online, don't believe everything you read. Google it, check it, double ask the question, make sure. But it's really helped here, and for at least our small group that we've been doing it, it's been very helpful. So social media, it's a yes. You just got to, stay off there's a bunch of stuff you just got to stay off, but it's really worth it. I really promote it. And trying to get wages in, it's something that must happen worldwide, but here too, there's always going to be the low cutter. There's always going to be somebody who just bought their Mix Pre 3 and they think they can just jump on board and charge 2 cents for it. It's, it's our job to just sort of share the information on saying, guys, if we're all on a certain minimum wage, like a minimum standard that we can charge, it's just going to help us all in the middle and in the long run, because we're all just, bringing down our wages just to try to beat somebody else for the job. It's not worth it. Like somebody was saying, just say no. If it's something that's not in your ballpark, it's not what you want to do. It's not a company you want to work for constantly because they're going to offer you the same peanuts. Well, just say no and try to keep your wage, keep your reputation up, saying, I'm sorry, I'd love to help you, but I do charge this wage for this and that reason. This is my gear, this is my experience.
And as Lauren pointed out, not the shaming part of it doesn't work, and it's just.
Right. Yeah, in LA we had this one instance where there was a couple of people running around town doing production sound for free on a lot of stuff, and as I dug deeper into it, it became clear by their website and some of their social media stuff that they wanted to be post sound people and they wanted to be composers. So their bright idea was to, hey, we'll do the production sound for free so that they'll hire us to do the post and then we can score it. That would get their foot in the door so they could do that. And that took definitely some
how about your foot in your mouth?
Well, that's the thing. And then I was in touch with him and I talked to him and I was like, you know what? There's a whole community of people that exist that this affects negatively. And, and they didn't realize that. They had just never considered it. That was just their bright idea coming out of college. Like, oh, we're in LA now, so how do we get our foot in the door? Oh, well, for them, they felt like production sound was just something they could give away in order as a loss leader to sell the products they really want to sell. So it was, yeah, it was interesting. But yeah, we gave them that context, and you know, that we had a positive result out of it, I gotta say. But thank you for sharing, Andreas.
My pleasure.
I'm really glad things are going well there, and hopefully that local community will develop and further, and more trust will be had by everybody, and the needs will get defined, and there'll
It's just
be a lot of
impressive
help for
how
people.
sharing a bit, and you're always going to get some back. You share, you're going to get stuff back. So it's just a, it's a circle of wealth that you just got to share and everybody be on board with. And it's brought more good than it has bad. So I think it's something we should promote, really.
Yeah. Very cool. Let's see, Mark and then Tyler. So Mark.
Hey. Yeah, Detroit here. I mean, there's not a whole lot of new information. It's like very similar to a bunch of the other groups. Our market is quite a bit smaller. Our mixer group is only 60, and that's mainly like freelance mixers. Some of the older union guys are there, but they're kind of just stalkers. And I know it's like me and a couple other guys were helping a couple guys join the union on Monday, which is going to be great, and they're users. But our group, I mean, I started with that big freelance group with Charles Tamaris. And then it's like when you split off and started LA, I was lucky enough that you invited me into your group. So my friend Lyle here in Detroit started the Michigan group, and we kind of modeled it after the LA group. But we found out, pretty quick that it's like, because the type of work that you do versus the type of work that we do, like someone had mentioned, it's like we're a lot of corporate, we're a lot of commercial, we're documentary, some short films and things like that, but not major features anymore, at least not since like 2011. And so it's day play, and it's just a couple type things. So we don't use our group for like a lot of social meetings and good time backslap, and it's a lot of technical questions. It's like younger mixers will ask whether it's about equipment, very much like Cujo there. It's like we do try to mentor our groups. It's like we have a little thing we call running a profitable small business. And so we'll help the new mixers, make sure they have accounting. If they want to be an LLC, filing as an S Corp, we'll help them to, figure out that path and how to do that, keep good records and bookkeeping. And, that's one of the things. Just like everyone else, we also have, pricing issues. But like Lauren mentioned, it's like I've seen some of the people who are the bad mouthing producers, and they'll insult, I mean, not everybody has the budget to pay us what our value is, but our job, at least I feel like our job in our mixer group, is to teach everybody what their value is. And if they're willing, I guess getting paid is a major factor, but it's not the only reason to do a film. Sometimes you might want credit, sometimes you might want experience, sometimes you might want networking, maybe there's a DP you want to work with, or a director. And it's like, so those reasons too, and we teach them. Most of the time when we talk about the pricing, when it comes to independent film, and when it comes to like the small, the smaller projects, pricing is the wild, wild west. You take what you can get, you take what you're willing to, you get what you're willing to take. But when it comes to the corporate and the commercial gigs, that's when we really, really preach pricing integrity. If you're going to compete on those projects, you need to be not just competitive in gear and quality, it needs to be in pricing too. If you're lowballing us, once again, we don't blackball anybody, but we'll have conversations. But it seems like the difference between our conversations and what I've heard, our conversations are typically over the phone. We don't put this stuff online. We don't let everybody see it. They're personal phone calls or personal get-togethers. Because like I said, our market's so small, most of us know each other. And we won't blame somebody. We'll just ask them what's going on. And, it's their business. It's like, that's what I tell everybody. It's your business. You can do what you want. But it's like, if you do those things, you're probably going to lose referrals from other mixers that have lost respect for you. And you're not going to get the kind of stuff you want.
The room gets a little icy cold there.
Yeah, but as far as like social media, I don't know what everyone else does. I think they just enjoy it on a personal basis. But as a mixer group, the only thing I'm really aware of that we have is our Michigan mixer group. And it keeps us together. We've had a couple outings. It's hard, but just like Lauren said, I mean, we learned the same thing. If you want to have, a mixer get together, you have to just set the date, say, hey, I'm going to be at this place at 8 o'clock. It'd be great to see you. You might have dinner on your own, or you might have dinner with 12 friends. You know, that's just the way it works. But we don't have, I don't think we have a huge social media type thing. And also, I think it was Cujo also said, yeah, watch what you post, because I mean, it's especially during you know, certain presidential administrations, there was a lot of diversity going on, and it's like I still would rather work than I would argue about politics. And it's like some people won't hire you based on your politics, and you don't want to work with some people based on their politics. But if you still want to get paid, you need to. And you know, we figured that out. And that's the kind of information that we share and talk about. And one other thing that we do, like with the younger guys, when they get questions from producers, because we teach everybody kind of what the going rates are, but we'll get a lot of out-of-town production companies and producers. A large percentage of our work is from out of town. And we'll get the people like an LA producer saying, oh, my guy in LA does this for $400 and he brings this and this and this and this. And it's like, they'll write us and go, does that sound right? We'll go, no, it's total bullshit. It's like, they are not getting an LA mixer for $400 to do all this stuff. You know, I mean, and it's like, the answer is, you know, we help them write email responses. You know, we help them negotiate. You know, I mean, that's what, I mean, the older guys will do for the younger guys. So
That's
when
cool.
they respond, they can, you know, go back and forth a little bit without sounding like, you know, like a total noob. And then it's like, you know, it's like when it gets down to where there's just no more, it's like, well, you know, enjoy flying out your LA mixer, you know, the flight, the hotel, the transportation. It's like, it's going to be more than you'd pay, you know, our rate. And, you know, and we teach them stuff like that, but it sounds like we're very similar to what everybody else is doing.
That's good.
You know, it's just, you know, like I
That's
said, our market's small,
confirmation.
so we almost all know each other.
Yeah.
That's confirmation that at least on some level, we're all doing it either very, very right or very, very wrong. I prefer the former. And then I want to echo real quick on what Mark said. You know, I've done, and a lot of us, I'm sure, have done political ads or worked for political candidates. I've been fortunate that I have worked for several different political candidates on all different sides of the political spectrum, and it should be a goal as a sound mixer or a professional in general, that if you go to work for any political party, they have no idea who you're voting for or who you intend to vote for, and maybe even they think you're going to vote for their guy or their girl. That's kind of how you have to approach your professional life.
Yeah. And I'm just going to add to what Cujo just said there. It's like, even though, I mean, this is what I preach, nobody's perfect. It's like sometimes something will spark and you'll send something off and you go, oh, I wish I could just kind of, I mean, I know you can delete stuff, but sometimes it's a little too late. And I mean, I've got opinions, but it's like over the last probably 7 years, I've learned how to tone them down a little bit.
Very good. Yeah. You know, it's that old legal saying, you can't unring a bell. Once the bell's rung, it's done. So
very true.
Well, thank you for that update. Lastly, we'll go to Tyler, and then I have one more question for the panel before we wrap it up. So Tyler, yeah, let us know how's the Dallas scene being organized, and how is it coming together for you guys? Is Tyler still with us? We might have lost him. So there you go. No, he's still there.
Yeah, he's still here.
He's still here. Okay, well, whenever he wants to jump on, he can. But I'll move on to the question that I have for the entire panel. We've talked about how your groups developed and what purpose they serve in your markets. Now, what is the advice that you can give new people coming into your group about things they want to do and things they specifically want to avoid, as it plays in your particular groups? New people coming in don't always know the temperature of the room. They don't know, what's going on. What do you recommend they do to help get acquainted with everybody, and what do you want them to avoid? And I'll take anybody who wants to speak on that. And that'll be our last question, and then we'll take questions from the gallery, as it were.
I'm willing to jump in on this one.
Go for it.
Because I've brought probably over the last 10 years, like maybe 6 mixers into the industry. And then it's like when there's other ones that just join, it's like we welcome into our group like right away. But what we try to like teach them is like when they're reaching out to grow and do the larger gigs, that really it's like a lot of it's gear dependent. Because I mean, a lot of people can, hang the mic and hit the record button and get a good sound, but distributing that sound across set to other, the places they need to go, whether it's the agency, whether it's the director or whatever, it's like you might not have the equipment to do that. You might not have what's there. So make sure you ask a lot of questions, without sounding like an idiot, to make sure that you have the details that you can provide the equipment that's needed to complete the job. So we make sure that, and that also helps us with our pricing, because it's like if the gig is too big for them, well, hopefully maybe they'll pass it on. And then it's like with their friendliness, it's like their referrals become a referral back to them when there's a smaller job. Like Chris, you said sometimes you don't do, certain, I forgot what kind of shows those were called. But it might be a student film that paid a little bit, or it might be a short film that pays a little bit, where you can give that back to the little guy who's got enough equipment to do that. Now, I know I still do, I still do probably 2 or 3 student films a year from a little film school around town and also Oakland University. And I call those karma gigs. And what I do, I'll see the ad. It'll be a bunch of students out there with the borrowed camera from the equipment, and I'll go out there fully rigged. They'll get every wireless, they'll get the smart slate, they get everything I get. I don't charge them for that. It's absolutely free, but I want them to know what the experience of a professional sound person is like. And the way that kind of returns to me a little bit is that after they graduate and they get jobs at different production companies, and it's like, they might have a director goes, hey, any sound guys? Or they have one card in their pocket, And so I get a few gigs there, and then that expands and I can grow, and you can pass those gigs on to the younger guys if they are smaller gigs. So that's how we help the new guys in the market.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, I'll jump in, Chris.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, Kyle and then Lauren.
Yeah. My biggest thing is for us, it's attitude. Having a great attitude is so important. And then the biggest thing is, everybody seems to be a mixer. So I always, I'm the chair for the IATSE up in Vancouver as well. So, my biggest thing is taking time to learn to walk before you run. And be that, working as we do a lot of dramatic television. So working as an assist, even if your goal is to be a mixer, just really spending the time to learn from others within the community. It helps you so much further in your career. It helps you from the business stance, the learning from the guys that have been doing it so long and getting that information that you can be a great mixer, but sometimes you just miss certain elements that it's so important to learn to work with other people and get that. So that's always the big one that comes from us is just taking the time to learn to walk before you run. So
yeah, and then to build on that, I think that, when we're talking about these rates, some of the newer people get really excited and then they think that they should charge that much. And I do think that if they're doing a job that they can handle, that's a corporate or commercial job, they should be charging that much. But sometimes people accept more than they can handle. And it's one thing if you're there's always going to be your first job where you have a lot of wireless. Like I did one, but I knew about the job a month in advance. So I spent weeks setting it up in my house, wiring my family, just practicing that. But, I know of a mixer who asked one of my friends the night before a job, how do I send sound to camera? It wasn't even a very specific question about their piece of gear. It's just something very general like that. So if you're not knowing how to do stuff like that, you shouldn't be accepting those last minute jobs. Even if you're, because it also can harm us too, making us look bad by charging those full rates, but not being able to do it. But on the opposite side, you have a lot of people with imposter syndrome. I notice this, especially women sound mixers. They just feel well, I'm not that good enough, or my gear's not that good enough. For several stuff, if it's a sit-down interview, your gear is fine, but you have to know the limit of what you have and the limit of your knowledge. I always say, I like to challenge myself a little bit. So if I'm doing something new, I'll try to make sure it's just the one new thing. So if I've never done 6 wireless before, I make sure that I'm not having to do anything else. But if it's your first job using 6 wireless, but you're also using a smart slate for the first time, and you're also using 10 Comtex for the first time, then, you know,
and doing playback and
yeah. Like, you know, you want to say yes because it's a high rate. Like, some people get a little too eager. So it's kind of finding the balance of like knowing that you can accept these jobs, and knowing you can do these jobs. But if you can do the jobs, you should be charging appropriately. And if you can't do them, you know, it's not like, oh, I can't do it, so I'll charge less. It's like, no, I can't do it, so I'll find a mixer for you who can. And then hopefully they'll pass me some, you know, beginner stuff, or maybe they'll have me as an A2 and can show me how to do it. Just like when I was asked to do playback last week, I couldn't do it. I'm sure I could have figured it out, but not the day before, which was when they were asking me. So I had another guy come on who could do it, and I just watched and I learned a lot. So sometimes you just got to do that. So
Chris, to answer the question directly about social media and handling these things, JW Sound, we do have, generally people have come into JW Sound and they've kind of read the room and realized this is not Facebook, it's not, and they usually preface their question by, well, I'm new here, and I know that I'm dealing with a lot of professional, experienced people, but I do have a question about, and they're very civil and very humble about it. But occasionally, we'll have somebody come in with the question that I always think is ridiculous. I'm doing this little project. It's just a little movie, and I need to buy. What's the best microphone for this movie? And I have $100. And I try and be as kind as possible, but usually someone else beats me to it, and they're not so kind. They say, this is not the right place to be asking that sort of question. You know, these are primarily working professional people at JW Sound. You should go and get on, you know, TikTok or whatever or something. And, you know, or the, you know, the DVR group or something else. And I try and balance it out in that I don't want to shut those people down right away. But for the most part, I think people sort of read the room before they say anything, which is just part of the way JW Sound operates. It just encourages people to be a little bit more thoughtful.
Some of the advice I've been giving people a while, I started giving people a few years ago, was use the group to develop your inner circle of colleagues, your friends that are kind of on your level, maybe a few that are a little ahead of you. And there's certain questions like that one, you don't want to put on the largest forum in the world. Right. You want to reach out to your colleagues first with that question. And because there is a balance between, RTFM, you know, which we all know what that means. Read the manual. But there's a balance between that and people being able to hopefully can ask questions when they need to in a pinch.
And then
like
there's
if
always
they're in the field and something, there's a balance to be had there. But
there's always, it depends as well. Don't forget that.
Yes, for sure. But you know, but I always say it's like there's certain questions you want to ask that's fine to ask in the forum, but there's other questions that are better meant for your inner circle. Reach out to them directly with that question first. Before
social media, that was always the way you had to ask a question. You had to find somebody who you knew was going to be nice to you, and you're going to be nice to them, and you're going to ask them, you know, I've got my first job and I'm using this piece of gear and I don't really know how do you whatever and so. I mean, I think back to the first job that I ever did in sound. I knew that I didn't know what I was doing, and I hired Tom Holman as my boom operator.
Wow.
And in between take 1 and take 2, I'd ask him a question about the Nagra. You know, what's the difference between high frequency, you know, high pass 1 and low frequency attenuation? And of course, Tom, who had never boomed before, was a school teacher. Nice. He taught film at the University of Illinois. So, you know, it was a terrific learning experience for me, but I was smart enough to know that I didn't know how to do these things. And, you know, and I made the guinea pig was the production I was working with. They were happy to get a warm body for $400 a week, unlimited hours with equipment.
Wow.
So, you know, it all worked out. But, you know,
Cool.
the thing that didn't work out is that Tom Holman never became a good boom operator, but I became a reasonably good sound mixer.
Yeah, there's, yeah, that's pretty cool. No, but that's the one thing that I would add to that is under the don'ts list is people who tend to use their group for just like, I felt like there's a couple of people with LA sound mixers where it just felt like they were just shagging us for information.
Oh
just,
God!
And it's just like this and this, and it's like they literally
Yeah.
just want to know how to plug it in and turn it on, and
right,
and
and that's all. That's all they're ever going to do in their career, also, because they don't.
Yeah,
yeah.
That's not what the group should be used for. There should be a proper respect for people's time.
I just think though, like,
Lauren had
you know,
something to say.
if you don't want to engage with that, you can just ignore them, right? Like saying RTFM is not helpful. Same thing with when a newer person's on set and they're having trouble getting something to work, so they're just because it's the fastest thing is to get an answer is to ask on Facebook or on a forum.
Yeah.
I just try to help them the best I can. I don't say like, you shouldn't have accepted this job without knowing how to do this. Cause like, you know, they already are freaking out and they already know, and they already will regret this and hopefully learn. So, you know, it might not be someone that I will refer to a job in the future, but that doesn't mean that
but you don't want to be the nasty person, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And if I don't want to help them, or if I'm too busy to help them, I just ignore it. I don't like try to make a nasty comment to them, because that just makes us, especially when it's like you know, a group that like, even if like producers are seeing or other departments, it's like, oh, sound people are like jerks.
Well, that's because you're a nice, thoughtful person, Lauren. You know.
Thank you.
Well, there's no rule that says you have to reply to every Facebook post or every post that's put up in the world. And one of the things that I try to guide people on is, and I try to do this for myself a lot, and it's about perspective. Where is this person asking this question from? Where are they in their world that they need help with a question? And then I try to put myself, remembering that there was a time not very long ago when I was scouring JW Sound like a Hoover vacuum cleaner for every nugget of information that I could get. And how can I help this person without being a dick?
Right.
Because that doesn't help anybody. And also because I gained so much knowledge because other people shared their knowledge and put it out there in the ether and on the internet for me to learn.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like I have a social obligation to help them learn. This knowledge that we have, it's voodoo magic to the people outside of our circle, but it doesn't need to be for the people that are in our circle. We are obligated to make the universe better, and it doesn't cost anything to be a nice person. It's absolutely free.
That's very much the same thing that Andrus was saying also, is that you have to have that enjoyment. It has to bring you pleasure as well to be helping people, you know. So
I love to help people be better because it makes me be a better person.
Right.
So I'm selfish in that regard. In order to give myself a little dopamine push, I help somebody else.
And saying that, Cujo, when you explain something the fifth time, you pick up something new on it. You go, oh, dude, I just said that in a different way. And just teaching helps you learn. So it's a win-win. It's like, yeah, sure, I can answer that question. Let me answer that question.
So, you know, getting over there to Chris's point a minute ago, there's always going to be somebody who's going to jump on, and the first thing they're going to say is, you should RTFM. I can't believe you're stupid enough to ask that question in public. And it's like, okay, well, instead of doing that, then, you know, maybe you don't want to answer the question in public, or maybe somebody has asked a really, really stupid question. It's okay to message them privately and say, hey, man, here's a better way to ask that question, or here's why maybe it's out of your depth to take this job. Or, you know, I learned early on that instead of saying yes to a job that I knew I was unqualified for, I would call another sound mixer and say, hey, I've got a job that needs somebody that knows how to do this. I'd love to pass the job on to you and maybe tag along.
Right.
as your utility for the day, so that I can gain some knowledge out of it. You know, it's okay to share work with each other so that we can gain from each other. You know, I'm not a playback guy. I can barely open Pro Tools without the manual. Okay, but whenever I have a playback job, it's like, nope, I'm not doing it. I'm calling somebody, because that person can not only do the job better than me, but they're probably going to teach me a little bit along the way. And I guess the biggest thing for our regional groups, our own circles of influence that we have is do that. Like what Chris said, find the people that are close to you, find somebody that's, you know, near your skill level, and both of you grow. And if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. Find another room and learn some more, and then find another room and learn some more. But make sure and check back on that other room that you just left to see if anybody else there needs some help, so you can point them in the right direction. That's kind of how I personally try to grow the Atlanta network, is constantly helping other people get better so that I can get better.
Yeah, a good well-developed circle has people at your own career level, but it also has people that are a few levels ahead of you, and maybe a few that are a few levels behind you, because context is everything. And you know, that is a well-developed circle right there, and you can always have questions answered. You can always answer somebody's questions, somebody that's in your circle. But yeah, and you know, at the end of the day, that was one of the things I was very careful to articulate in the LA Sound Mixer group rules, which was, look, if you're in a pinch, if you're in the field and you just, this is your last option, ask, always ask, because regardless of what the question is, if you're in a pinch in the field, we'll help you. There's no question about that. So, you know, that's the caveat of it was, you know, if you have time and you can do the due diligence, do it. If you can ask your inner circle, do it. But you know what, at the end of the day, if you're in a pinch in the field, ask away. We'll,
you know, we'll do our best. How to format a card in your machine is not the right one. Is that not the right one?
Yes, but I'll say that moderation, at least on LA Sound Mixers, a lot of the moderation happens off the page. It happens in private messages. It happens over coffee. It happens over private Zoom chats. But either myself or the moderators will, you know, if there's something going on, we'll try to take care of it in a very, try to do it in a nurturing way. So, because we don't want to be jerks, we don't want to scare anybody off, and you know, we want people to learn, you know, how to acclimate and use the community for all the strengths that it can help them. So, but yeah, does anybody else have anything to add as far as, you know, the do's and don'ts of new members coming in? I know it's kind of a broad topic, and we're going to wrap it up here. So let me know if you have anything else to add, or if there's any questions from the gallery. We still have, most of us are still here, so we did run a little over.
I'll make one last point, then I'll be quiet the rest of it. But I'm just so happy that all of the sound groups that I see here are much more collaborative than competitive, because I mean, it's happened here. Collaboration in our Michigan network over the last like 18 years is paid off. It's paid off in gigs. It's paid off in the ability to be able to do jobs where you might have to borrow gear instead of rent gear. So it's like you can make the money and then buy the gear, and then, you know, everybody's grown. And so I love the collaborative nature of this whole sound department. I just love it. Just want to say that. And thanks for having me, Chris.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's not too many crafts on the set where, you know, we have to, like ours, where we do have to make a substantial investment in order to just get our foot in the door. And it's a big risk. And so, you know, it's not many other departments have to go through that. But I think that's a point of us being able to bond with each other, is that we've all kind of made this investment and taken a shot.
You're right, because of in the non-union world, there's not really that many boom operator opportunities. So it's not like you can like in camera, you can work as an AC for someone without having to buy gear. But it's kind of, you can't just like wake up one day and join the union, at least in New York. So you're right that you do kind of have to buy gear to even just get started.
For sure. Very cool. Well, any other last questions? Eleanor, you had a ton of stuff to say in the chat, and I read most of it. But feel free to speak up and share with us. We'd love to hear from you. Hopefully this chat's been a help for you.
Yeah, no, definitely. Can you hear me? I'm using
Yes.
headphones
Yeah.
that have been through the wash. Okay. Which says a lot about me, I guess. I just want to say, what do I want to say? I want to say thank you to all of the resources that I have used over the years. And I kind of wanted to say that I kind of found myself in the unique position in my very small market of Wilmington, North Carolina, where we do get a fair amount of features and TV shows and et cetera, where as someone who's been in the union as a utility for a long time, and now I'm really starting to make a commitment to mixing, that it's kind of been, it's been really helpful to me to kind of bring along some people with me. So I'm a little older and I do have some experience. And I've kind of acquired a group of students lately who have come out of the film schools nearby and such, who I've kind of have used on various projects as utilities, or here, come boom this thing for this day, or et cetera. And it's just become a really great community. There's a fellow who I've bought a second 633 and I'm gonna lend it to him occasionally so he can go do student films, you know, just stuff like that, where it's gonna help me out because I'm gonna have a crew, you know, as the time goes on. And it's going to help them out because maybe they'll find a love for this and have a career. So I just want to say that that's something that's happened to me lately that I feel is really great.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, that's awesome. I'm certainly really glad that you joined us. And yeah, feel free to jump in anytime and share with us. It's really good to have you here.
Thank you.
So cool. Anyone else? We'll wrap up. A couple of things I want to mention. Tomorrow here in LA, we have our winter mixer, which is we have a CAS Awards tonight, which is going to be a lot of fun. But then we have our LA Sound Mixer winter mixer, which happens tomorrow in North Hollywood. If you have an RSVP for that, if you're local, please reach out. And also, if you're in, I invited the admin for the freelance film and television sound page in Europe, but he's working today, so he was unable to join us. But if you're in Europe, we're going to be there with K-Tek in Berlin and in Rome in mid-May. We'll put those dates out soon. Hopefully you can come out and see us. It'll be the Boom Operators Masterclass, and then it will also be a live version of this chat. So we're going to have some of the local really talented mixers there locally join us. And we're going to talk about the issues that they're unpacking there in their local communities and how they've done it. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So we'll put versions of that. Hopefully we'll be filming it. I'm not sure, but we're gonna try and film it and put it online. But anyway, but that's it. We have our Monday meetups once a month at Lawless Brewery in North Hollywood, which was very much inspired by Lauren Banjo and what she was doing in New York. So we do those once a month. And it's been very cool. Lamps, is there anything we missed? Anything we should add?
No, I think we covered everything. Yeah, I'm not muted.
I saw Tyler was back. He didn't.
Oh, Tyler. Yeah, is he back?
Yeah, hey, sorry, minor family emergency. I had to step out for just a moment.
No worries. I hope you're doing okay.
Yeah.
We still wanted to get to you on how the Dallas community has developed its social media presence and what purposes it serves in your community. Like, is it a locals only page there?
Yeah, it mostly is a locals only page. I mean, we started our Lone Star Mixer. I believe that was in 2013 was our first one. The page that you were talking about, Chris, it's you brought it on board as we started to sort of regionalize a lot of that type of stuff. But you know what, we started the Lone Star Mixer once we saw that it was done maybe once or twice, and like with the ramps party and that sort of stuff, it wasn't a thing. So we're like, okay, well, let's just see what we can whip together. And then it sort of snowballed. You visited us in the past. Lauren was down this year. It's been really great. Our friends over at Gotham Sound in New York, they helped put the bill for it. But it's been amazing. And the Texas Sound Mixer page was, it's been sort of a off-season sort of meetup spot. We do a lot of gear rental requests, like we don't have a real dedicated audio shop, more or less. I mean, Dependable Expendables or Vandalay is partly there, but even still, there's so many different specifics that we need a regional page like that to help coordinate things. Impromptu meetups happen all the time. There was one in Austin last week, that sort of thing. So it's a fun, ours is a fun place to be around. I wouldn't say there's a real like high level educational agenda there, but it always sparks a lot of discussion. There's text threads, email chains, that sort of stuff are still very much in use around here. That's kind of our usage of it. But it's been great. It's been very cordial, and it's nice to just be able to stay in touch with people and see what they're doing with the latest and greatest. So
nice. Well, I certainly appreciate you and Jason stepping in and kind of taking the lead with that page and developing it into what it is. For those of you who haven't been to Texas, there's basically 4 major economic areas. There's Houston, San Antonio, Austin, and Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. And all those things are, an hour to hour and a half to 4 hours away from each other. Everything is a long drive. It's a very big state. So, it really is a place where it helps you to know some local people, because there's not a lot of rental houses there. There's not a lot of support outside of the other mixers that are working in your community. So
and I would say along the lines of I started out as an editor of all things, and like Creative Cow, like an online forum for that sort of stuff was helpful with some Final Cut issues when people were still using that sort of thing. So it's so nice to see JW have sort of that role for the mixer industry, for the audio guys, because I think it was mentioned earlier about the archival stuff, abilities of that, and be able to search through it. I go back to it all the time and find amazing answers. So thanks again, Jeff, for keeping that alive. It's really great.
I'll tell you what, a lot of us are following in Jeff's footsteps on this. So
yeah.
It's
100%. Well, it's JW, as we talked about earlier, it was sort of the first like breath of fresh air, and for a great place to be. All the others had sort of different resources and everything, but it hits all the points that you need. Really great information, really great mentorship abilities.
Thank you for that. And it was built on the fact that we had a core group of people that were so generous with their, even taking the time to post things and to come up with really, giving people a good direction, a good way to think about things, not just giving them the advice about this is the button that you push, right. And it's carried on in the same way, so.
Yep, it's a good spirit, and we're happy to be part of it.
Nice, very cool.
Chris, I wanted to let you know also, I'm not going to attend the awards tonight.
Okay.
And I am going to make a big effort to be at the thing tomorrow.
That's going to be on an outdoor patio. So
yeah, that'll be the first event I've attended in a long time.
And I still feel so bad about standing you up for lunch that day.
Oh yeah, I know. That was almost going to be a chance to actually get together with you. It's funny.
I know. I ended up on it. I did not expect to get invited onto this Tech Scout for this feature, and then when I got invited, I got so excited, and I went, and then promptly at 11 o'clock, my phone rings.
No harm, no foul.
Yeah. And my heart sank, like I was supposed to have lunch with Jeff.
Yeah, right.
So anyway, that's the kind of thing that happens. Anyway, any final thoughts before we sign off?
Closing thoughts. It's free to be a good human, and not everybody needs to be taught where the record button is. They just need to be taught how to work on set. 90% of our job is personality management. Pushing
wise words
can be taught to any monkey.
Yeah, I'd probably add to that a little bit. You'd be really surprised at how much it's very difficult bringing people to shadow you a lot of times on a lot of projects for a variety of reasons. COVID certainly did not help that argument. No. You'd be surprised how many producers or projects will let you bring somebody else on just to shadow and stuff like that. Yeah. So I'd say just one thing that we could all do is probably open the door to other younger people that just are interested. If they say they're interested, first test is just showing up and seeing how interested. So feel free to be proactive rather than reactive on inviting other people to.
Lauren, did you get a chance to hang out with Jan at all in the beginning, or just discussions?
During when? Like
when you were starting out,
Yeah, I think I met up with her a couple of times, but yeah, that was the first thing that I did when I learned what location sound, production sound was. I Googled it, and then I got put on JW Sound, and I just made a group because I was like looking at all the posts and they all sounded like men's names. So I just made a thread that says, "Are there any women here?" And Jan was one of the first people to answer, and she happened to live in New Jersey as well. So
right,
oh yeah,
that's good.
She's been my mentor for years. So it really is important to have older people coaching the younger people and passing it on. And I can't wait to be in her position one day and help another sound mixer.
Yeah, we had a great chat with Jan. We did an interview with her, which is posted on the LA Sound Mixers public page on Facebook. It's still there, and yeah, she was what a fascinating person to talk to.
Jan's amazing.
From. Yeah, what an amazing person.
And I know that she was very helpful to you, Lauren, and she is very fond of you. So
for sure. Well, cool. Well, with that, if there's nobody else, we'll go ahead and stop the recording. Yes,
we have to get 30 seconds of room tone.
Oh, the old room tone joke.
For the recording.
We did that yesterday at the other location. Yeah.
Awesome. I love it.
Yeah, we need that room tone to fill up all the places we take out the bad language, right?
Right.
Yes.
Fuck that nonsense.
All right. So we're going to cut it here. See y'all.